The NATO left is in complete shambles as Zelensky once again praises Benjamin Netanyahu while emphasizing the close ties between the two fascist countries. The Zionist-Nazi alliance continues to thrive. Zelensky in his post will explain how Israel and Ukraine share a deep bond and share the same values. Yeah, bro, trust me, we know. Genocidal Zionist propagandists like Laura Loomer is now heaping praise on Zelensky, claiming that the Israeli-Ukraine alliance has the potential of being an elite fighting force against multipolarity. So here is Laura Loomer, like many neocons who support the Ukraine proxy war, openly admitting that the war is really about protecting the United States' unipolar power and preventing a rise of a multipolar world. So Zelensky finally accomplished his goal of being acknowledged and recognized by the state of Israel. He did say he wanted Ukraine to be a big Israel after all. Despite these clear connections to Israel, the NATO left continues to support Ukraine. These sellouts claim to support Palestine, but consistently take positions on geopolitics, which completely undermines the Palestinian cause.
What's poppin'? My friends, my family. How you guys doing? You guys know I'm always in the lab cooking, and I've been fighting for my life to try to wake up the left because I realized something not too long ago, maybe a few days ago. Let me pull this pic back up. Ignore my floating head. But what is this? What is this? Ilhan Omar loves for some Nazis in Ukraine. I realized a few days ago that young leftists today, I'm talking about like the Gen Zers, a lot of teenagers growing up. I don't know exactly when Gen A starts. I know Gen A is extremely young. But a lot of Gen Z leftists who've been following the news in probably the start of like 2020, 2021, it's crazy how many of them actually have no idea about what happened in Ukraine before the special military operation. So many of them have no idea about Ukraine at all. And it's largely because the Bernie media industrial complex, which greatly misled them. And the ruling class being locked in as they always are, they used the rising popularity of Palestine in order to rehabilitate rank imperialists and to normalize imperial positions in left spaces. Oh, guys, we got to stand for Palestine and Ukraine, right? Without them ever making the connection between how Zelensky's Ukraine is a small Israel. The tactics they use against ethnic Russians, the conflict in the Donbass, the failed attempt at diplomacy by Putin for years before. And we're going to dive into that a little bit more today because there's so much miseducation. And I'm going to do everything I can while I have a platform to my dying breath to dismantle this. And I have good news for you guys because we are suppressed by the algorithm. I am blacked out by mainstream outlets and also independent, once again, Bernie media industrial complex aligned platforms, but we're still reaching people because like the United States left has been completely sleeping on this issue. And all the people who support Ukraine and the NATO leftists, they do everything in their power not to talk about this story. How can you cover Ukraine banning oppositional media and say you support them in democracy because of that? How can you explain why you should support a country that banned socialist parties? This is what led to the discontent with the ethnic Russians and many people who still have sympathies towards the old Soviet Union, which they was a part of. So we have Victoria Nuland, John McCain, and a bunch of swamp monster Zionists who provoked this massive conflict with Russia, enabling fascist forces in Ukraine, who was also in bed with the Israeli government and Zionists. Let me see if I can find it, because Max Blumenthal wrote the story, and this is why I'm saying a lot of new age, young leftists, misled leftists, people who watch Hassan Piker. If you watch Hassan Piker and you're a young Gen Z leftist, you have no idea what's going on in terms of foreign policy, especially Ukraine. Because this used to be a big topic of conversation among left spaces. I explained this before about how the United States and the West is enabling the rise of Nazism in Ukraine, helping their government slaughter people who opposes the CIA meddling in Ukraine, the black rockification and privatization of Ukraine. Here's Max Blumenthal in 2018. How many of these Gen Z NATO leftists you see that probably read this article or know of this article? Israel is arming Ukraine's blatantly neo-Nazi militia, the Azov Battalion. Despite all these receipts, despite all the time that I covered this and I converted many people who was misled, and it's always younger people, never like older leftists, because older leftists, even ones to my right, even older leftists heard what Noam Chomsky said, and I'm talking about the people who are not paid feds of the Democratic Party. People who may be differing from me in terms of politics, but people I believe are good faith. And a lot of these old school leftists, they knew that there was fuckery afoot in Ukraine because this is what the left used to talk about. Democracy Now! Used to talk about it. Jacobin used to talk about it. These are platforms I'm deeply critical of. So like older leftists, like they usually know what's going on. It's always, and you guys will be surprised how many of these like younger leftists, but oh shit, Nick, I had no idea about Victoria Nuland, CIA. I didn't know about the Maidan coup. I didn't know that Zelensky banned socialist parties. I didn't know about people being kidnapped off the streets in Ukraine. So that's what gives me heart, and the reason why I continue doing this, because with my platform, with this little light of mine, I let it shine. I let the truth shine. And I'm waking up countless people on this issue. And there are people that told me that like they used to listen to these Ukraine NATO leftists. And now ever since I exposed this issue to them, they look at like Emma and all these people who are wrong on this issue. They look at them side-eye now. Like they used to didn't understand my criticism of these people. And then once I educated them on Ukraine, and this shows how good faith they are. Like people will follow me on X, that's my biggest platform, on YouTube. A lot of people will discover me. I am heartened because, and I show Zoya some examples of this. We are reaching people, fam. This is why they're so aggressive and Black in the South. This is why the establishment is terrified of us. Because even though they're suppressing the shit out of us, even though we're still a little baby channel, trust and believe these liberals that pass by, we're waking up. The non-political people who passing by, we're activating. So don't lose the faith. We're going to continue to build. And I'm going to continue to educate people and do everything I can to prevent this so far extremely successful counterinsurgency by the ruling class, which has been incredible. Taking the issue of Palestine, which should have been used to upend the legitimacy of the empire, NATO leftists are now taking the issue of Palestine, using that to legitimize themselves with the streets. You know, the people who oppose genocide and empire, there are a lot of people who don't have time to read between the lines like I do, who are easily head faked into thinking that liberal Zionists, NATO leftists, Nazi police state imperialists actually have their best intention in mind because they say free Palestine. Just because they will do a segment criticizing Hakeem Jeffries, who the politicians who they vote for support anyway. So there's been massive confusion, massive successes on behalf of the Democratic Party, and we have to acknowledge this. Massive success by the ruling class and countering the fiery revolutionary energy that we used to be optimistic about as people was exiting the Democratic Party. So we're going to continue to fight and we're going to continue to educate Because this tweet by Zelensky, and this is why I had it for a while, and I'll show you guys Laura Loomer's response to this. Out of all the receipts that I share, out of everything that we do, and it's not just me, man. You guys see like Gray Zone, they be on top of it. Jimmy be on top of it on this issue. DD Geopolitics, they're on top of it on this issue. Garland Nixon is killing it. Like, so it's not a lack of soldiers on our behalf, but we've been trying to educate these misled sock dems, and they will just ignore. They will just black us out. Maybe we're not reaching many of these people, or they just choose to be ignorant. But there was something about this tweet by Zelensky in particular that really broke through. That's why I did a hotspot video about it. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm definitely about to throw some coal in this fire. Because this tweet right here by Zelensky, because it comes from Zelensky official source, official government account. I don't know why it was this tweet in particular which really caught the attention of the NATO left. And it was like, holy shit. What have I done? No, trust me, the bad faith leftists like Emma Vigeland and all the other NATO leftists, they didn't comment on this at all. Don't get me wrong. The bad faith Bernie Media Industrial Complex Democrat operatives, they avoid this story like they avoid every single story about Ukraine. But once again, there are a lot of good faith, and this is why I came to this conclusion that a lot of Gen Z leftists don't know. Like, they legitimately don't know. Imagine you've been following Hassan Piker since you was like 12, you know, and now you're like 22 years old. You don't have no idea the relationship between the Ukrainian Nazis and the Zionists. So this hypothetical Hassan Piker watcher enjoyer, who's a member of DSA, who believe they found the radical path but been misled by the Bernie Media Industrial Complex, they come across this tweet and they're like, holy shit. Here's Zelensky. I received warm congratulations for the people of Ukraine from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel. And guys, it's not the first time. Not the first time that Zelensky tweets and stuff like this. But for some reason, this is the one that caught fire. Because here's Zelensky explaining how Ukraine and Israel share deep bonds between our people. You don't say. The fascist Nazis in Ukraine do, not the ethnic Russians. Remember, the ethnic Russians in Lugansk, the Donbass region, they want nothing to do with this Nazi, genocidal, Jewish supremacist sellout of Zelensky. This is why they supported a referendum to be part of Russia. Is all this stuff starting to make sense to people? Are NATO leftists and young Gen Z leftists who don't know what's going on, does that make sense to you? That ethnic Russians, once again, who had cultural ties to the USSR and the Soviet Union, was uncomfortable being part of a state that was being led by leaders by the West, initiated by a CIA coup. And then they banned the Russian language, they banned socialist parties, they banned the right to collective bargaining, they banned media. And whenever I bring this up to, once again, when these Hassan Piker, Gen Z leftists, they are bug-eyed. What do you mean Zelensky banned socialism? What do you mean Zelensky banned the right for collective bargaining in oppositional media? And I'll be like, hold on. I got to remind you, fam, he didn't ban all oppositional parties. He kept the fascist ones. He banned the ones who are explicitly socialist and the ones that they smeared as pro-Russian. But so all the sane Ukrainians, once again, when people say, Nick, you saying all Ukrainians are Nazis? I'm saying no, the ones who are in charge are. So all the sane Ukrainians, look at what's going on in the fascism in Ukraine and the government that is now being sponsored by Western coups, and they said we're out. That's why there's ethnic Russian Ukrainian fighters like Nikita Krivlov who sported the Russian flag instead of Ukrainian flag. That way you will see all these ethnic Russians in the Ukraine who the Western media will go along and smear them as a traitor because they want peace with people they have cultural ties with for generations. Many of these people in the Donbass, Lugansk region, they have family who live in Russia. So why would they join the fascist purge against Russian people in Ukraine, promote harmful, negative ties with the state of Russia? It doesn't make any sense. But this is the historical background that the Bernie media industrial complex and the NATO left purposely ignore, and they mislead young Gen Z liberals, aspiring socialists, social democrats, by they lie by omission, by not telling them this stuff. They will say, "Don't you know the war started in 2022?" I got the receipts for that because I have a lot of work to do with re-educating the social democrat fascist adjacent left. They're the moderate wing of fascism, and we gotta have re-education of these people. I say this is the NATO left in shambles. I almost want to show you guys just a few reactions. I already showed you guys the Laura Loomer one. How can you be a leftist and see Laura Loomer and Zionists praise Zelensky? Because all the Zionists on Twitter, I think this is probably another reason why this one caught on. Because the Zionists was so happy they finally found another country who likes them, another ally, right? So you had all the Zionist accounts like Laura Loomer and all the influencers tweeting this out as well. So all the NATO leftists who follow these people, they saw Zionists praising us. So I think this is another reason why it broke through. So you see Laura Loomer, the fascist, racist, genocidal monster, advocate for a U.S.-Ukraine-Israeli alliance as a powerful alliance to fight against multipolarity, and you don't question that at all. Now think about what kind of demon. These are the Ukrainian Nazi Zionist alliance. Imagine how far gone you have to be to view the fight and shutting down multipolarity to be this awful thing. It is when you're a genocide supporter. So you guys, so all the accounts who understand this, you guys think we didn't have a field day on this story? That's why I made a hotspot about it. I did a hotspot video on Instagram. The NATO lefts are in shambles because my hotspot video is starting to crack through on Instagram. They do better on Instagram than they do on YouTube, high key. Way better, actually. And they be like, and it's all, I look at their accounts, always be these young leftists on Instagram, like, what? Well, I thought Zelensky and they were fighting for democracy. This is why I love what I do. Because I just love waking people up to the fact they've been lied to. And the reactions, especially from, once again, extremely good faith people who may or may not be misled, who actually care about the Palestine issue, because the Palestine issue still offers us amazing opportunities because people have been waking up against the violence and sins of the empire as a whole because of Palestine. And now I'm going to show you this lady here. She's one of the many, you can tell she's very young, people who see in Zelensky, praise Netanyahu, and they are beside themselves. So I don't want to be negative. This is a British leftist here, I'm assuming. I'm not going to be mean to this person because good for them for acknowledging this. I don't know if this is a well-known person. I don't know personalities that well. I stumbled across this video, and it went pretty viral, and it summed up many of the takes on this issue.
I've been critical of Zelensky in the past. Absolutely. I'm critical of pretty much whoever I need to be critical of. But this takes the biscuit. For those people that haven't seen, they just take a look at Zelensky, the Prime Minister of Ukraine, praising and backing genocider Bibi Netanyahu. Nah, sorry, not having it. I feel sorry for Ukrainians. I feel sorry for any civilians that are caught up in destructive wars that kill them. But damn, we've been saying this for years about Zelensky, actually.
Also, fair game to her. I guess I kind of forgot. She's pretty based. She's pretty based. She knew before. But you guys see how people are using this as an opportunity to educate the misled NATO leftists. They're like, guys, this is not it. It is not the line you're willing to draw. But I'll let her continue because she's actually cooking here.
That kill them. But damn, we've been saying this for years about Zelensky, actually, and nobody really in the West wanted to talk about it. But the guy has just put on his public social media himself supporting, praising, backing, loving, begging Bibi Netanyahu. Screw you, Zelensky. Screw you. I'm sorry, Ukrainians, but I'm a British taxpayer. I do not want my money going to anybody, including Zelensky.
How crazy is it? And I really want you to digest this. How crazy is it that we can't get the NATO left to say the same thing in opposition to what Ukraine is doing? But I'll let her finish because once again, she's cooking. She's cooking here.
To anybody, including Zelensky, that supports a murderous, satanic, evil person like Bibi Netanyahu.
So she says she don't want her money to go to any motherfucker who supports Israel. Base as hell. She's base as hell. So we can't even get the DSA to say this. We can't even get Zoran Mamdani. We can't get Abdul El-Sayed to say this. We can't get AOC Ilhan Omar. Not a single progressive politician can say the same thing that she says here. And she lives in the UK, where they will throw her in prison if she looks at the government the wrong way. So you're telling me that the DSA can't even say this? Are people mad? Thinking these people are good faith. This is a gigantic difference. And it's a reason why people who advocate for Democratic Party entryism avoid this issue like the plague.
Zelensky, that supports a murderous, satanic, evil person like Bibi Netanyahu. And I feel sorry for Ukrainians that they have such a grotesque leader like him. And you know what? Yep. I may not like Donald Trump, but he was absolutely right when he dragged this guy's backside in.
All right, no, we gotta give it up to her. She's way more based than I remember. I guess I wasn't listening to this as well as I thought I was, because she is repeating the same position I had. Remember our coverage when that happened? Zelensky being dragged by Trump was one of the funniest things that ever happened in geopolitics. Meanwhile, liberals were having a goddamn meltdown. That was, according to liberals and MSNBC and the NATO left. Remember, Bernie Sanders even was like, this is the worst thing that ever happened. Meanwhile, we was like, bro, this is the greatest thing that Trump has ever done in humiliating this little weasel, traitorous Nazi weasel. How base is this person here?
They have such a grotesque leader like him. And you know what? I may not like Donald Trump, but he was absolutely right when he dragged this guy's backside in the Oval Office, because now I know that he deserves it. That's a red line for me. End of. Cut off. Yes. Cut off anything to Ukraine. That's the energy that we need to have right now. You know, sanction goddamn Israel. Anyone that backs Bibi Netanyahu in this heinous, murderous regime that they are, including Zelensky.
Now I'm sad again. You guys want to know why I'm sad? Because she lives in the UK. I told you, the state of the mainstream DSA progressive left is abysmal in the United States. It's not even great in the UK. But so this is across the ocean. We can't even get progressive to say this. So I'm kind of sad again. Like, damn, too bad we don't got more people like this in the United States. I'm on the front line fighting for my life, educating people about Abdul El-Sayed and how he's a NATO leftist and how this is unacceptable in the United States. Meanwhile, in the UK, apparently this is pretty easy to find left position.
This regime that they are, including Zelensky. So those people that want to come to me and tell me, you know, we need to back Ukraine. I'm not talking about Ukrainian people. They have a leader that is supporting a genocider. So we need to do everything in our foreign policy power to make sure that we're not supporting individuals like him. It's sick. It's a sick club. It's a club that they're all a part of, and they don't care, because to them certain lives are valued more than other lives. Zelensky can go do one, Zelensky. You know what, I spoken about Zelensky in the past. I even gave him some grace when I didn't have to, but now thank you, because you have revealed to the world who you really are, you sick man.
So I don't want to make any assumptions of her previous positions, but you guys see how this tweet is waking people up? Thank God he was dumb enough to do something like this. And that's what she said too. Now I'm looking at this. This is her account here. Holy shit, yeah, she got a pretty big account. Thank you, Zelensky, for revealing your true pathetic colors. Your decision to side with and praise Netanyahu has cost you the support of millions of people across the West who once stood firmly behind you. Let's fucking go. Hey, NATO leftists, we're just getting started, bro. We're just getting started. I am going to destroy you motherfuckers. I'm going to destroy. Once AOC 2028 start, oh, AOC is running for president. You know what presidents do? They control foreign policy. So you want to know what I'm going to be on their ass on all day? Every day? We're going to cover that here later. AOC rejoined the DSA. They're already preparing for their imperialist SOCDEM program. We're going to cook them over the next few years. And we're going to pull people off this pendulum. They're going to fall off the pendulum exactly like I told you guys what happened. It's happening right now. And I'm telling you guys, you don't see it, but I see it and I feel it. We are shifting people's belief on this because I have the receipts and I'm about to show you some more. So we have the receipts. And not only that, the Zelensky Nazis and Zionists can't help themselves but to show their ass. So they will continue to give us more victories. There's going to be more humiliation rituals by the NATO left. And I promise you guys, as things may be bleak right now, we're going to destroy these people in the battle of ideas and we will fucking win. Because once again, I have the receipts. I studied this issue extremely closely, even before I was a political commentator. And now I've been covering this issue for 4 years now, around the clock, reading article after article. I am going to destroy these people. They can't debate me on this. You saw how easily I seized the law degrees of ROCKED when he attempted. If we are going to dismantle these people, because they're already losing a lot of more liberal-minded people on this issue, and the campaign haven't even began yet. I almost want to show you guys. I'm running out of time. Damn. This is going to be probably one of them longer streams, huh, Zoya? I kind of want to show you guys a few more reactions because I want to show you guys the law. Because I cannot. I was shocked at how much this one broke through. Like this is a guy who was critical of Ukraine. He said the country at the bottom supports the genocide of the country at the top. And he said everyone really got mad at me for this tweet years ago. And look, this got 2.5 million views, 63,000 likes. Bro, this story broke through big time, and I've been doing a victory lap for days since. You can rot in hell after this statement. Did they think that before? I'm not sure. I don't know who this person is. Yes, Zoe, I'm sorry. I said in my head it's going to be a short show, but we just scratched the surface of what I want to cover today. Hope you buckled in, my friends. We about to be cooking. We also have my friend Carlos who will be joining us later from Midwestern Marx. Yeah, do you guys want to see some of these comments? Because I was reading these for the last 2-3 days now, and it gave me a sense of optimism. This is our friend Nerdine, our Palestinian activist sister, who she said, "Oh, I was essentially doing the same thing I'm doing. I told you, motherfuckers." I told you guys. So she had a tweet a while ago that got a lot of NATO leftists furious at her. She said, "Sorry, but Ukraine is nothing like Palestine. Palestine is a people fighting against settler colonialism. If anything, Ukraine is more like Israel, a Western-backed project propped up by geopolitical interests and sustained by the empire." You guys see how our Palestinian brothers and sisters understand that you can't support Ukraine and be pro-Palestine all the time? You want to know who's telling young Gen Z people that you can? White suburbanites like Emma Vigeland and Hassan Piker and these people who put themselves as the spokespeople of the Palestinian people. And they try to tell suburbanites and other leftists that they should stand with Nazis in Ukraine who want nothing more but to see more Palestinians dead. And it's a pretty effective oxymoron because it's starting to catch on. I see people steal my term all the time. Like many other terms, how many people you heard say NATO leftists before me? Now people are talking about it. because it meant to be an oxymoron to draw attention to how absurd the United States left is, that there are people who consider themselves leftists supporting a Nazi fascist coalition in formation. And you goddamn right. And we're going to have Eddie Liger, Carlos, and Midwestern Marx join us soon. And I was saying that we're going to dismantle these people in the battle of ideas over the next few years. And they try to prop up liberal Zionists, imperialists like AOC. And before I bring in my friends at Midwestern Marx, I just got a few receipts to show you guys. I know that my homies at Midwestern Marx know, because they spend their time educating people on this issue as well. But let me show you guys a few receipts before I bring my guest in. And I'm going to show you guys exactly how nefarious the NATO establishment left is, the progressive media apparatus is, because these receipts exist and they decide, they make a coordinated choice not to show their audience this. Which is why I'm consistently finding young Gen Z leftists like, Nick, I didn't know this. Nick, I didn't know this. I can't, what? Because they've been going for years without being informed by this. So I'm sorry if you know this stuff, fam, but guys, we got some work to do on miseducating these socialist aspirants who've been misled into following fascism. So let's start with first receipt. I don't want to keep my guests waiting too long. But here is John McCain, someone who played a chief role in financing Nazis in Ukraine, overthrowing the Yanukovych government in Ukraine. And they were very open about this at the time. They were celebrating this. This is John McCain recording, and he had Victoria Nuland behind him. Sorry. I'll read the description. Look, February 14th. Like, this is in 2014. For the idiots that say they started in 2022. John McCain is filming the protest, standing alongside Jeffrey Pratt, the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, with Victoria Nuland standing behind him, all enjoying the overthrowing a democratically elected Ukrainian president, Yanukovych. So this is the video. Look, this is the protest that they enabled. See how giddy John McCain is? But a NATO leftist will tell you that they're fighting and they support the war in Ukraine to defend democracy. But once again, don't listen to me. Don't trust my word, because I remember clearly I was a college student as this was going on. I remember studying this and seeing these people go on corporate media and admit to the American people right to their face that they are provoking a war against Russia by propping up fascist elements in Ukraine. You think I'm making up? Here's John McCain.
Joining me now, Senator John McCain, who I know, Senator, you have just addressed the crowd of protesters there yourself in Kiev. What is it you're trying to do here?
Hopefully what we're trying to do is bring about a peaceful transition here that...
Oh, it was so peaceful, wasn't it? How did that go, John McCain, who is dead as hell? How peaceful was it?
Would stop the violence, would give the Ukrainian people what they unfortunately have not, with different revolutions that have taken place, a real legitimate society. This is a grassroots revolution here. It's been peaceful, except for when the government tried to crack down on them, and the government hasn't done that since. But I'm praising their ability and their desire to demonstrate peacefully for change that I think they deserve.
Let me ask you this about the U.S. role. I know that you have wanted the administration perhaps to consider sanctions, something to help boost the anti-government protesters. The question to you is, while we're trying to work on so many things with the Russians, for instance, with Iran and in Syria, is this really a good time for the U.S. to be taking on Russia?
You realize how fast this lady would be fired if she ever asked something like this in the modern age? Even the corporate media back then was like, hey, man, do you think it's a good idea to provoke this when we know how serious Russia is about this? But sorry, let me continue, because I'm kind of running behind here. I'll let it continue, but even she acknowledged that she brought up how they are sanctioning the Yanukovych government. They was doing everything they could to weaken the government while propping up the protesters, while he called it grassroots. I remember when words used to have meaning.
Well, I don't think that we would be taking on Russia. And by the way, I am very pleased with Secretary Kerry's statement. Our Deputy Secretary Victoria Nuland, who was here. Look, these people love the United States of America. They love freedom. And I don't think you could view this as anything but our traditional support for people who want a free and democratic society.
What does this remind you of? Same thing with Iran, the same playbook.
We're not talking about military action. We're not talking about blockades. We are talking about the possibility of sanctions if they continue to brutally repress their people. That would require some action on our part, just because that's what the United States of America is all about.
There it is. John McCain said, if the government don't allow us to overthrow them, what government will allow a fascist foreign intervention to overthrow them without a fight? He said, well, if the government resists us, then we will personally have to get involved, which they did. But to help me break this down, because we still got a lot to discuss, I don't want to keep my guests waiting any longer. Yeah, the homies of Midwestern Marx. We have my friend Eddie Liger, Carlos Garrido, who has joined us, Midwestern Marx. Also a part of ACP. They do education regarding working class issues and geopolitics. How you guys doing, my friend? Great to have you guys back on.
Doing good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're doing good. Good to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We have plenty to talk about tonight. We're going to get to the state of the United States left. Your guys' vision for what you guys believe the left should be doing. But I have to give you guys thoughts on how you guys been messaging the issue of Ukraine, because I'm going to be at the ACP summit next week. And my whole thing is I want to talk and organize with anti-imperialists who are outside the duopoly, even if we don't 100% align on things, even though I align a lot with you guys on many issues. And the reason why, and a lot of people are like, Nick, I can't believe, why are you associated with ACP? Unlike DSA, I don't have to worry about the ACP condemning Hamas. I don't have to worry about the ACP accidentally supporting Nazis in Ukraine. So how have you guys been messaging this issue? We can start with Carlos and we'll go to Eddie. At Midwestern Marx, as a party of the American Communist Party, how have you guys been messaging and how have you guys been positioning yourselves when it comes to the NATO proxy war in Ukraine? Once again, thank you guys for joining.
Well, it's been very clear, and you said something earlier that resonates with me a lot. I'm sure it resonates with Eddie. We've been saying the same shit for many years now. Eddie's had 7 TikTok accounts banned, basically for exposing the truth on this issue, on this criminal imperialist proxy war that the US and NATO and EU axis is waging against Russia. But we have to continue repeating these points through different mediums, because every time we do a new video or something on this topic, there's new people that become informed that for some reason or another hadn't heard about the truth and had been duped by the spellcasters in the media into accepting the narrative that is convenient to US imperialism, which is that Russia is just a big bad neighbor country that's invading poor little Ukraine next door and that has ambitions to expand all across Europe. That couldn't be more contrary to what the truth is. Russia was promised that NATO would not expand towards its borders. It expanded to I think 29 countries or something like that. And Ukraine had been very clearly for a long time a red line that the imperialists have flirted with crossing for a very long time. And around the time that the special military operation started, it was very clear that the assault on the people of Donbass, which had been almost genocidal since 2014, was going to intensify. And that's when Russia decides to intervene. And their main mission is pretty clear. It's to denazify a country that, thanks to the influence of the West, the US and NATO, had completely rewritten its history to write out the communism, to write out the fraternal relations historically that have existed between Ukrainian and Russian people, and to espouse this, for lack of a better word, Nazi reading of Ukrainian history, rooted in the figure of Stepan Bandera. And the Azov battalion, which is quite literally a Nazi battalion with swastikas and other sort of Nazi insignia. And that's just the truth. And I think the reason why people miss it is because they don't have an understanding of things that are systematic. They somehow, you know, it's very popular for the liberal left to like to see people that support Palestine and then turn around and support Ukraine and try to draw homologies between the special military operation and what the Zionist entity is doing in Palestine. But the only way you could do that is if you take these disconnected datums of information of one country going into another and doing things militarily. And if you separate that from the larger systems in which they exist, if you analyze things from the perspective of the dominant world system, which is global capitalism, super imperialism, etc., it becomes clear that whether it's Ukraine or Israel, both are proxies of American imperialism, American unipolar global hegemony, as is Taiwan. All of these areas are just proxies of U.S. military power, of the U.S. empire, to carry out the war that it wants to wage against the people outside of the sphere of influence of U.S. imperialism. Russia's not communist anymore, but it does have sovereignty, and that's what imperialism doesn't want. Imperialism wants countries to get on their knees and to just submit themselves to Uncle Sam, and Russia says no, and because it says no, they want to punish it and break it apart into pieces.
What's that, Carlos? Eddie?
Yeah, as Carlos mentioned there, the first time my TikTok account got banned, which I believe I've surpassed this now, but it had like 300 some thousand followers. But then the war in Ukraine started, and I took the position that you and Carlos have been espousing. And a lot of people who formerly were friendly with me turned on me and started doing attack videos, and all of a sudden my account disappeared. And it's been interesting, especially in the past couple of weeks, as Ukraine has really shown their true colors in backing Israel and the genocidal apartheid state, both materially and ideologically. A lot of people have come around and seen that, as Carlos said, we were correct about this from the beginning. And I mean, Carlos made most of the necessary points. We also spent time in Russia recently. And as he said, it's not a socialist state, but God, they're doing a hell of a lot better than us, man. I wish I could go back. Everything's clean. Everything's orderly. There's almost no homeless people. They have really, really nice high-speed public transportation everywhere. There's all sorts of infrastructure projects going on. Just the way that the city is laid out is super organized because it was all done according to a planned economy rather than a for-profit sort of anarchic economy. And the reason, Carlos mentioned the system of super imperialism. The real reason why the U.S. sees Russia as an enemy is, for one, foreign policy. Russia is straight up helping governments like the former Assad government in Syria, the Sahel revolutionary states, and like Traore. Recently, they helped to thwart a coup in Mali. But then also, it's economically, Russia was plundered in the 90s after the fall of the Soviet Union by neoliberalism. Their state-owned industries were sold off for pennies to Western financiers and shareholders and multinational corporations. Their welfare state was dismantled. And Putin, despite being a nationalist rather than a socialist, what he's done is basically crack down on corruption to a degree, not as much as maybe we would like, but to a degree, he's cracked down on corruption. He's nationalized some of the natural gas and oil industry that previously belonged to oligarchs. And then he's done what the U.S. and U.S. client states refuse to do, which is basically put a tax on landlords and financiers and rentiers. And this is exactly what other countries should be doing, right? But instead, what other countries have done is push the taxes onto labor and even like actual industrial capital that actually produces real goods. All of the taxes have been pushed into the more productive sectors of the economy, whereas financial speculation and rentier capitalism, basically, real estate investment and landlordism, charging rents, has been able to get away tax-free. Like all the taxes have been removed. That's been completely deregulated. So Putin did the opposite. He shifted the tax burden onto these rentier capitalists and financiers And that's unacceptable to the West, whether you're ideologically socialist or not. So all they're doing is trying to use Ukraine as a proxy to attack Russia and get them back into the sphere of Western financial influence, and they'll kill as many Ukrainians as they have to make that happen.
Very well said, both of you guys. That was great breakdowns, and you guys see why I am willing to form a coalition and work with ACP, because based on those answers, you guys can see how the ACP is strong against fascism. The DSA is weak on fascism. They weaponize stupidity in order to manipulate people on being weak on fascism. But then they will smear ACP and other ACP supporters as secret right-wingers as they support Nazis in Ukraine. Can someone please explain that to me? People will smear ACP as secretly right-wingers as they support politicians who condemn Hamas. Do you guys condemn Hamas? Someone explain this to me. This is why I am going to be with you guys in Chicago, and we're going to brainstorm some ways to expand this coalition, and why I speak heavily against the record. Go ahead, Carlos. Feel free to interrupt anytime.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's not only that these people don't want to do coalitions. I was just in Chicago meeting up with a bunch of leftist organizations, progressive churches, progressive teachers. I went to universities. I tried to meet up with everyone. I had meetings set up with local people from the DSA, FRSO, PSL, pre-established meetings that were kind of up in the air. And then when I got there, everyone just ghosted us. Everyone ghosted us, or if not, they let us on until the very end. Yeah, what does that say about they're not even willing to have a conversation about
they want a coalition with the King Jeffries, though.
Yeah, right. They're perfectly fine. That's one of the paradoxes of these people. We're too impure because we don't force people to adopt liberal cultural values in the party. We allow, we allow that to not be a principal contradiction that divides people within the party. We're too impure for that. But somehow the Democrats are not too impure to support when they fund Banderite Nazis in Ukraine, or when they fund the Zionist entity, carrying out a genocide, or when they do all the other shit that the Democrats, which is the liberal wing of empire, often the most successful wing at carrying out empire's activities without anyone saying anything, because it's not done in the vulgar form that Trump does it with his mean tweets or Truth Social posts. So those people you can form coalitions with, but God forbid you even have a conversation with one of the leaders of the ACP. That's unacceptable.
Yeah, and I peeped this, and this is why I view them as extremely adversarial, because they view us as adversarial. They are leftists who orbit Democrats, and they never show up to support RBN mutual aid. They didn't say anything about Rome, as Rome was being targeted by a state, and they was labeling him as a domestic terrorist. You know why? Because he's not a Democrat. PSL was deeply disappointed, because PSL don't want to work with anyone. Unless you're a Democrat, then they will attend a No Kings rally. Explain that to me. I'm okay with someone who is completely 100% consistent. I may chip at the edges here with some criticism, but if you're one of the people who attend all protests, I support anyone who support Medicare for all, I support anyone who's anti-Zion, that's a position I can at least somewhat expect, even if that may lead you to more liberal circles many times. But at least you're principled. You may show up at an AOC rally, but you also will show up at an RBN mutual aid event. That's a position I can at least respect. But what people fail to understand is that DSA isn't in the PSL and all these Democrat orbiters. They are an anti-solidarity movement. What does that mean? That means if you don't support the Democratic Party, if you don't support entryism, you might as well be dead to them. You have ACP members being targeted by the Trump administration. You had Jill Stein being targeted by the Trump administration. When has PSL, when has DSA or anyone sent any kind of comment in solidarity hey, man, I may disagree with Jill Stein on her strategy, but I stand against Trump fascism against her? No, they'd rather see Dr. Jill Stein rot in prison just because she's not a Democrat, because she said mean things about about AOC. They will let see ACP members locked up in prison because they laugh at the idea because remember when there were a bunch of Zionist genocidaires who was threatening the life of Jackson Hinkle because he was in Iran. He was threatening the lives of my friends at DD Geopolitics. And the response of like Emma Vigeland was to laugh it off. Who cares? No solidarity. So you guys see the problem there? Go ahead, Eddie or Carlos, if you have anything you want to add.
No, absolutely. It's and we've pointed this out a million times too. Like they see people like Jill Stein as beyond the pale because she, is too supportive of Russia or whatever, and we're beyond the pale. But the people who are literally materially facilitating a genocide of Palestinians, they're not beyond the pale. And with PSL, it's like in rhetoric, a lot of times I respect what they have to say, in their criticisms of imperialism and stuff, but you have to judge people by their actions, and that's exactly kind of how they act. They won't speak up for someone like the ACP or Jill Stein or Rome, but they will attend a No Kings rally.
Won't support any of our events. And they were like, well, I would like to attend protests. That was their excuse to defend why they was attending a pro-genocide, pro-war duopoly. Well, we got to meet the people where they're at. We got to protest. But then when it comes to actually protesting with either RBN, ACP, whether it comes to attending an RBN mutual aid event, whether it comes, nowhere to be found. But please continue, Eddie. It drives me insane.
It's true. It's very, very culty in how it operates. I don't want to accuse left-wing organizations of being a cult because sometimes that's something that gets thrown around. But with the PSL, it is sort of, there's from the top down, it's sort of enforced who people are allowed to talk to, who people are allowed to associate with. And we've experienced that where people were cool with us. They liked our content. And then they join PSL or get their orders from the top. And, they're not allowed to talk to Midwestern Marx anymore because of our associations with ACP or whatever. And it's ridiculous. And this is why we have respect for the Green Party. We're not in the Green Party. We probably, if we were, and maybe at the conference, we will get into some of the smaller disagreements that we have, but they're trying to build something outside of the two-party duopoly. And beyond that, they're willing to work with others and show up for others who want to work outside of the two-party duopoly. And what we've said from the beginning is we will help to build that coalition however we can. If it ends up being the Green Party that topples the duopoly instead of the ACP, we'll have their back every step of the way. But we need to work together if we're going to organize something independently outside of this wretched two-party system. And that's why people should come to the conference and hang out with the three of us.
Yeah. It's an anti-solidarity movement, and they show their class interests all the time. And the way they retaliate at people for associating with people outside their clique, if you associate with people who are deemed the undesirables, I've seen people get lynched for just saying good things about ACP. You know what I mean? They went after me. Zoe, you guys, the people went after me. I'm like, if you think you're gonna socially pressure me to not stopping someone, you must not know who I am. I will double down even more. But what's even crazier about this? Because I go back to the fact that they have no solidarity with anyone, but they love orbiting Democrats. The same people who, because one thing that got me in trouble not only was covering Ukraine, I covered this on my channel before. It was my appearance on Jimmy Dore, which was really the straw that broke the camel's back for a lot of people. And they were like, how dare you spread your message on a giant channel? And the same people, and I noticed this, the same people who went hard at me for being, how did you platforming Jimmy Dore, never lifted a finger to support Rome. Never lifted a finger to support me and any of the mutual aid projects I held. Never did anything to support RBN. You want to know who did? Who never publicly bragged about it? I'm the only one who actually mentioned it. You guys know Jimmy donated to Rome's library? Well, he would never. I don't know if he get mad at me for even saying this, but he don't like talking about it. He donated to RBN Mutual Aid, donated to Rome Library, and then he plugged our mutual aid on his show. And then the same people who don't do anything to support us at all will then turn around like, Nick, you got to cut off Jimmy Dore. Why? Because he hurt your feelings with a video? You want me to cut off someone who materially supported our movement? And that is how the left in the United States operate. They want you to cut off anyone who has solidarity with you and swear loyalty towards democratic entryism and the leaders that they prop up, which is why I'm looking forward to our event in Chicago. I'll give you guys a final word on this topic, and then I will pivot back to Ukraine. Guys, still got some receipts I want to share you guys, but I wanted to really dive into this conversation. I didn't want to cut this conversation off because it's an important conversation to have, but we can get back to the story after this. But anything you guys want to add on this topic before we move on?
Yeah, I just want to say that for them, what's most important, and I feel like a broken record because we've been saying the same thing for like 6 years now, but is solidifying the purity of their in-group. And there's a paradox there because that means that they are a type of left that instead of facing outward toward the masses and trying to win the masses and change the system we live under, as the purpose historically of the left has been, what they do is instead of turning outwards, they turn inward, and they just police everyone within their spaces and make sure that they're not getting contaminated with the dirty other that is outside of their in-group. And that's fucking a monastery. I don't know what to tell you. Like, that resembles more a monastery than a left-wing political movement.
And anything else you want to add, or we can move on?
We can move on. I just want to say I agree with Zach Curtis. He says Jimmy hate is exactly why I know these people will never reach regular workers. Like, say what you want about Jimmy. I don't agree with Jimmy and Kurt on everything, but their show's freaking popular because they speak like regular working class people. And it's like, how are you going to reach workers if you cancel somebody who's as left wing on almost every issue as Jimmy Dore? It's ridiculous.
The reason why I don't want to associate with any of these people, I explained to you. If you cancel Jimmy Dore because he said something on, like, you will cancel half the people in my family. You got to go. I have evangelicals in my party. Not my party, in my family. I talked to him as wild, bro. I mean, I talked to one of my cousins who he strongly disagrees with gay marriage. He said, what's in the Bible? He wasn't talking to me. I heard the conversation though. He's like, what's in the Bible is what we should follow. What's in the Bible is what we should follow. I don't believe in gay marriage. This is stuff what people say in the Midwest all the time. It's a religion. I don't follow it, but this is religion. So the people who canceled Jimmy Dore, and there was a big conflict that we had within RBN with a lot of my previous members. I'm like, bro, you will cancel me, not me, but a lot of people in my family, a lot of my friends. You will cancel a lot of my neighbors. So what movement are you really fighting for? Well, what are you really fighting for? You wanted to cancel anyone who don't have your same social position. I remember vividly, we talked about this before, but like many people in the global South are socially conservatives. Many of the socialists in Lula's coalition in Brazil, for example, Lula takes a lot of socially conservative positions, like on abortion, for example. That's because a lot of his constituents are evangelicals. A lot of part of the working class are deeply religious and deeply socially conservative. So the messaging comes from DSA and the liberal-minded Democrat chasers that they will cut anyone off who says something wrong about the trans issue, which is like the biggest thing that Jimmy did was like questioning trans people in sports or whatever. Go ahead and go into Missouri and ask people opinions about that. Are you going to cancel everyone who disagree with you on that fringe issue? Unseriousness, and that's why I want nothing to do with them in a whole, because they're not going to build anything. But anyway, let me move on.
Like, if I could just comment real quick.
Go ahead. Feel free, man.
I do these TikTok live streams often because I can interface with people. I have guests on and they debate me and shit like that. Every time I have someone from these sorts of left spaces, their question is always like, well, why aren't you tailoring your party work and the things that you guys put out to people like me and people in my left? And I'm like, bro, you think we want that in our fucking party? You think we want people that can't hang and get offended at the smallest thing and would cancel fucking 70% of the country? No. No, we don't.
Yeah. Very well said. All right, let's move on. We're gonna get back to some subject issues because we're gonna get back to the left again because I'm gonna cover our main headline. We haven't got to it yet, but Hassan Piker condemned by his own party. We're gonna cover that. AOC rejoined the DSA because she's about to prepare for president. So we're gonna get back to domestic issues soon. So don't worry. But I want to finish this Ukraine segment I'll start off with because I told you guys I have receipts, and I actually cut a few because I can do this all day if I wanted to. I'll show you guys the John McCain receipt. I'll show you guys the protest receipt. Here's another one. There's plenty of information out there that makes being a NATO leftist completely unacceptable to me. It's willful ignorance and weaponization of stupidity by the professional managerial class. And then they use their titles and their degrees. Don't you know I got 2 doctors? My name is Abdul Al Sayed, and I support Ukraine. Don't you know I'm smart? I got 2 doctors. Don't question me. This is what they believe. Meanwhile, this is the NATO Secretary Jens Stoltenberg admitting that the war did start in 2014. I think I showed this clip a long time ago on the channel.
The war didn't start in February last year. The war started in 2014. And since 2014, NATO allies have provided support to Ukraine.
What NATO leftist? Do you hear him? AOC, do you hear him? Hassan Piker, Emma Vigeland, do you hear him? What did he say? He said NATO since 2014 have providing arms and support to Ukraine.
Since 2014, NATO allies have provided support to Ukraine with training, with equipment, so the Ukrainian armed forces were much stronger in 2022 than they were in 2014. And of course, that made a huge difference when President Putin decided to attack.
You guys see how they don't separate these conflicts? It was a gigantic conflict that the West was preparing for. And this is why Putin took a lot of shit from tankies. He took a lot of shit from ethnic Russians in the Donbass who felt like Putin wasn't doing enough, that he was slow walking this issue. A lot of hardliners in Russia that was furious at him. Now you guys see why 80% of Russia support this conflict? And that's me being very conservative, by the way. Now you guys see why Putin has a 75% approval rating? Once again, me being conservative. Because everyone in Russia understands the threat. Everyone in the United States who elected, they will explain how, well, at least I would hope, how NATO and the United States are genocidal forces. But then you guys are wondering why Putin is getting a little nervous when he sees these genocidal Nazis across his border while propping up fascism. One more clip I'll show you guys. One more, and then I'll get you guys to chime in here. Here's Zelensky. I read a clip here. In December 2019, Zelensky was seen laughing as Putin spoke about implementing the Minsk agreement to end the conflict in the Donbass. In 2019, I don't think this video is in English. That's why it's not really worth playing. But I will show it so you guys see Zelensky's body language. Because Putin, for years, tried his best in a failed effort to engage in diplomacy with the West for years and years and years, as Russians were being slaughtered, as the West was encroaching his border. And this is another example. Sorry, let me play the clip so you can see Zelensky's body language.
Необходимо, конечно, продлить срок действия договора об особом статусе отдельных регионов.
Look at this guy. This is a fucking weasel piece of shit that knows he's leading his people to a war they can't win. And people on the left are just now realizing that Zelensky is a piece of shit after he openly sells out his population. There's been a complete Ukrainian population collapse. That country is done for. It is owned by BlackRock. Ukraine has no sovereignty. Their entire generation was wiped out. There's an epidemic. I was reading earlier how there's an epidemic of loneliness among young Ukrainian women because there's no Ukrainian men. They're gone in their age group. And Zelensky's laughing at Putin's attempt to prevent this from happening. And there's confusion among the United States left about who we're supposed to be supporting in this situation. Anything you guys want to add on before I move on? I'm sorry, I got a few receipts I got covered, but you guys want to chime in?
Bro, I'm just fucking trying not to die laughing from the comments about the phallus talents of Zelensky, the piano player. But yeah, I mean, Putin is a moderate. You know, the West loves psychologizing people and getting into, what happened in the early family history, doing the sort of pop Freudianism. But Putin is pretty much a centrist. People were talking about, the Western media went crazy because Putin's approval rating went down by like 3%. It's still higher that you can add up like most of the European leaders' approval ratings, add them all up together, and they're still less than Putin's. But the Western press is still concerned that his popularity went down. But do people know what are some of the things concerning the SMO that people in Russia disagree with? The main thing is that they're not fucking going full swing. The people in Russia want a more aggressive campaign against Ukraine because they see the terrorist acts that Ukraine regularly carries out in Russia with American weapons. When Eddie and I were in Russia, the flight that I was in, with Haas and with my wife. We were 15 minutes out from getting to the airport. And you know what happened at 11:30 at night? The plane just started turning around, and I was like, all right, what the fuck is going on? It ended up happening, we found out afterwards, that there was drone strikes in the airport in Moscow that we were going to land in, that just so happened to coincide with our flight. Thank God for us being 15 minutes late. And so we had to land in another airport. Russian people are used to this. And so the disagreements that part of them might have now developed with Putin is because they want him to go harder on Ukraine, not because they think he's a illiberal dictator who is carrying out this unjust war against a neighbor. It's because he's not going hard enough against Ukraine.
Yeah, and I was going to tell that story as well. I'm glad you did, because you were actually on the flight that got turned around. But Ukraine's doing this very indiscriminately too, just firing drones over the border. They hit a school recently and killed, some college students, just innocent civilians trying to go to school. So the feeling from the Russian people is, as Carlos said, not that Putin's going too hard, but that he's going too soft. And then you have, so-called Marxist-Leninists who will support Ukraine. And it's wild, not only because of the ideological Nazism, but because, do you think Joseph Stalin or the Soviet Union would have allowed NATO to take Ukraine in 2014? You just heard Jens Stoltenberg say that NATO was backing them as early as 2014. That would have been it. The second NATO entered Ukraine, the Soviet Union would have done something about it. And when we were in Russia, one of the most impactful things we saw was this monument in the subway that was to the brotherhood of the Ukrainian people. And people forget, Ukraine wasn't an Eastern Bloc country that had relative independence. No, they were an autonomous Soviet socialist republic. So they were given autonomy, but they were part of the same country as Russia, essentially. They weren't like, Poland or one of these other countries that had their own government. They had some autonomy, but they were essentially the same country. And now you have this, what is essentially part of Russia becoming a NATO puppet state. This is something the Soviets never would have allowed to even get this far. So, and that's why, communism is seeing a rise in popularity in Russia again, too. They're having to have a confrontation with their communist past, because they're realizing that it's the fall of communism and the onset of liberalism that allowed this disaster to take place.
Very well said, as always, you two. And I'm just getting started. I actually cut a few for the sake of time. I still got. Now you got to see how it was easy for me to snatch Ro Khanna's law degree when he attempted to debate me on this issue. Now do you guys see the fraction of the receipts and knowledge I have studying this issue for years? How do you think Dr. Abdul Al-Sayed, with his 2 doctor's degrees, would do with me? We have a conversation about why he supports Ukraine. I will snatch both his doctorate degrees. Give me 5 minutes before I turn him to a stuttering fool, the same way I did with Ro Khanna. Because once again, I'm just scratching the surface. I'm going to cut this segment short because we still got a few more things to cover. But let me quickly read this, because this is something that I promise you, a fraction of young Gen Z leftists know this. I was talking about this earlier, guys, how whenever I change a lot of people's mind, I've been changing a lot of people's mind on this issue. Whenever good faith people who've been misled on this issue, they're like, I didn't know this, Nick. I didn't know about McCain interfering. I didn't know about stuff, Victoria Nuland. I didn't know about this. I didn't know. It always comes from someone younger, someone who's been following Hassan Piker and the Bernie Media Industrial Complex, and never informed them on this. So let me quickly break this down, because this is another key component of this conflict and completely destroys the narrative about this being started in 2022. This is a great thread by Richard. Do you know in 2014, Ukraine needed a loan? You see where this is going, right? Ukraine needed a loan. So you had the IMF, the Western option, that dangled a $15 billion lifeline. But as always, it came with strings firmly attached, like it always does. Scrap the ban on private land ownership, slash pensions and subsidies, classic austerity. And anyone who knows anything about the IMF, that shouldn't shock you. They have implemented this all around the world, especially in Africa and South America. So there's the IMF loan that Ukraine had the option to take. Then there was Russia, the friendly cultural neighbor, who offered the same amount, $15 billion, but with no strings attached. No IMF-style austerity conditions, no neoliberal gutting of the economy. So then you have Viktor Yanukovych, the president that they overthrew. Guess which one he picked? He picked Russia. And that was the second that he was screwed. So the second that the Ukraine rejected the IMF, that is what led Victoria Nuland, John McCain, and Lindsey Graham to accelerate their plan to overthrow the democratically elected Ukrainian government to install a group of fascists. Now you guys starting to understand why Ukrainians in the Lugansk, the Donbass region didn't want to be part of this government. Is the root of this issue starting to be clear to people? Because as I mentioned before, I bet you not a single Hassan Piker viewer knows this, unless they got cold watchers RBN. I bet you none of the NATO leftist media apparatus people know this. They're not even telling you that there's massive upheaval in Ukraine. They're not covering the Ukrainian people being kidnapped. They're not talking about the mutiny within Zelensky's own party and coalition, people calling for elections. You guys realize that there was a petition. There was a petition that was immediately shut down by the fascist Ukrainian regime. And then, like, you know how people are, they started another one. They're like, fuck you, we're going to start another petition. There was a petition urging Zelensky to talk to independent media because he'd been protected and given softball interview after softball interview. Meanwhile, Ukrainians like, nigga, we got some questions for you. Why you keep kidnapping people off the streets? What is your long-term plan to achieve victory? Are you really going to fight to the last Ukrainian? What is your plan to pursue peace like the majority of the Ukrainian people want? So the point I'm making that people in Ukraine want to see Zelensky pushed on these issues. Look, petition urging Zelensky to talk to independent media on the sixth attempt after being taken down gained 7,000 signatures in one day. This shows how much people are demanding that Zelensky be held accountable. And it was this ex-defense minister, that's the title I forgot about earlier, but he was the guy within their own government that was calling for Zelensky to hold elections. Now the Western media and the BBC is a mass smearing anyone in Zelensky's government, former government, that is speaking out against Zelensky as Russian collaborators. Because Zelensky says, and you guys know the New York Times print this, what Zelensky says in response, uncritically, by the way, Zelensky says his ex-defense minister was wrong to call for elections. So the NATO left dipshits who believe they're fighting for democracy is supporting an unelected tyrant that is using never-ending war in order to sustain his power. And these are the same idiots who attended a No Kings rally to tell you how they oppose kings, except that king is appointed by NATO, apparently. You see what the Western corporate media, actually, this is Kyiv Independent, so this is Ukrainian media. You guys see what the Zelensky media regime, the media that he's allowed to operate, what they're saying about people who are calling for democracy in Ukraine. Hey, can we have a little democracy? They were already smearing everyone who's saying that in Ukraine as people who are falling for Putin's playbook. Look, Russian disinformation tests its Ukraine election playbook. Here's the Hill, and this, I'm just showing you guys a small example of this. Liberals run these stories for the last 2 weeks now. Zelensky says wartime election would destroy Ukraine. Will it though? Or will it destroy your grasp on power? So you guys see how if you are on the side of Ukraine, you're not fighting for democracy. You are just the progressive wing of fascism or the moderate wing of fascism. Anyway, we can wrap this segment on this one. Any final thoughts on Ukraine? Any reactions to any of the receipts I showed? Anything you guys want to add? And then we'll cover our main story. I'm kind of late on it, but we'll get to our main story about Hassan Piker, and we'll get to AOC and DSA. We'll get back to domestic politics. Any final thoughts you guys have, Eddie and Carlos?
I would just say that I think for the first time, ever since we've been covering this issue, I think over the last few months, there's been more and more people from these spaces of the sort of liberal left that has been super pro-Ukraine, that have been, coming to see the light. A few years too late, but there are, I think, a significant, there's somewhat of a change going on, at least in parts of the U.S. left, that's coming to a more correct, still not fully correct, but a more correct position on this issue. And you know, I just saw you posted a meme on the RBN account a few hours ago. It was the guy holding up the world, and it was like the burden of being right all the time.
Yeah.
And that's our problem. We're like so ahead of the game that we get shit right when it matters, when it's happening, when the spellcasters in the media are duping everyone, and when people are calling you phobic this and stand that for saying the truth. We'll say it when it counts. And then 5 years after, all the slow heads of the rest of the so-called left will join us, you know, because they operate with what Eddie has called hindsight anti-imperialism. They're anti-imperialism when the shit's already passed. You know, it's very easy. Everyone today is against the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, those brutal criminal invasions. But who are the real ones that are against the versions of that are going on today, that are happening right now, when the fog of what is true and what is false is confusing because of the spellcasters in the media? Who's the one that's saying it when it counts? Those are the real ones.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is that we met some comrades in Russia from the Ukrainian Communist Party who were forced to flee their country and seek exile because they would be arrested or killed by the Zelensky regime. And they were advocating for the release of the Kononovich brothers, two Ukrainian communists who have been on house arrest for years now because of for speaking out against the Zelensky regime. All opposition media has been shuttered. All left-wing communist, anti-imperialist political parties have been shut down. It's a total dictatorship of the NATO puppet regime. So the claim that we need to support them because they're fighting for democracy, I don't know even what to say about that other than to laugh at this point. I'd love you to hear people say that to the faces of the comrades we met who had to flee their homes and their families because their country is run by a murderous Nazi NATO dictatorship.
Very well said. We got one more segment where we're gonna interwove a few stories regarding our continued critique of the absolute horrific state of the United States left in the mismanagement class, the miseducation class. I'm gonna show you guys how deranged the ideology of an average progressive Democrat is. I don't think people appreciate it, especially when I hear people pretend like there's a big difference between them and a more quote unquote neoliberal Democrat. They all have the same deranged worldview. They all embrace their role as the moderate wing of fascism. These are the people like Zoran Mamdani, Dr. Abdul Al-Sayed, and Pramila Jayapal. They're part of the professional, managerial, highly educated, suitable left that will condemn every single enemy of the United States empire. They will condemn Cuba. Zoran, he hates Cuba. Zoran believes Venezuela is an authoritarian dictatorship under Nicolas Maduro. Their biggest criticism of Trump's offensive is that they left the Venezuela regime intact. That's what they're upset at. They hate Russia. They hate China. They hate everyone that the United States tells them to hate. But you want to know who they love? And this gets to what I believe is the most deranged part of their ideology. The most deranged part of the ideology is their U.S. exceptionalism, that they hide behind a progressive veneer. They really do believe that the United States is some country that is going around defending human rights, standing up against authoritarianism, and standing for democracy. Ro Khanna said it on my show, and I was dumbfounded. And here's Pramila Jayapal, and I think it's important to show this because it relates to their deranged worldview and what leads them to supporting Nazis in Ukraine in the first place. This is Pramila Jayapal talking about her trip to Germany.
Hey everyone, I just landed in Dublin and we had an amazing 2 days in Germany. We met with the leaders of every major party in Germany, and we heard a lot about the rising threat of the right-wing party there I think there's a lot of fear around that and a lot of interest in how the United States is fighting back, how we're organizing at the ground level, how we get the message across to people that we as a left movement are going to be just as coordinated as the right movement, and how we make sure that we are really standing up for working people every single day. So there were a lot of similarities. I learned a lot as well, and we're really strengthening these ties to fight authoritarianism across the world.
What? First, before I continue this video, you guys realize that she is meeting with Friedrich Merz and the deeply unpopular German ruling class that is despised by their own people. Talking about how she's going to fight against authoritarianism across the world. You are a United States congressperson. What are you saying? You guys see how she passively acknowledges that the role of the United States somehow is supposed to be some force to fight against authoritarianism? No, you can't even stop your state from committing genocide. Germany is a state that is literally locking people up for standing for Palestine action, for opposing genocide. They're slashing pension benefits. They're cutting healthcare benefits in order to fund Nazis. But according to Pramila Jayapal and the NATO left, we should be forming coalitions with the genocidal Zionist Nazis in Germany and NATO to fight authoritarianism around the world. And I just ask you this hypothetically as I continue this video. Who do you think she's talking about when she says that?
Now I'm in Ireland, and I have a couple days here, and really interesting couple of days. Tonight I'm doing a public event at Trinity College with Ireland's foremost.
I actually don't care about the part about Ireland at all. This is the part I want to emphasize.
Strengthening these ties to fight authoritarianism across the world.
And this is her tweet. I want you guys to respond to this. It's been a powerful few days in Germany, meeting with leaders on how we can continue to fight against authoritarianism. So you guys see how she wanted to emphasize that part? She's with the BlackRock ran Prime Minister, Friedrich Merz, a deeply unpopular German government. That's what she views as the beacon of democracy. You guys have any reactions to this before I move on?
I just want to say that when I hear people talk about authoritarianism, I automatically assume they were like dropped as a baby or something. Because what the fuck is that? You know, like authoritarianism, like really? It's so sick, especially speaking from the standpoint of the United States. Even if that's even if you treat that as a meaningful marker of thinking about politics, who the fuck is more authoritarian than the American empire?
Exactly.
Really?
Well, maybe Germany, the way they're arresting people for speech and pro-Palestinian activism, and they have a prime minister whose approval rating is at about 14% right now. I mean, the only maybe more authoritarian state than the United States is their puppets in Europe, like Germany. But they're going to fight authoritarianism. What a fucking joke.
And you know what's interesting, guys? Like, I get to interface with a lot of normal people as a teacher. I teach in a community college setting, so it's not preppy, you know, trust fund kids. And I try to speak about these issues around the world and bring these things up. Almost everyone, I would say like 98% of my classes are like critical and in terms of what's actually left, probably a lot more left than a lot of these politicians. They're critical. Their instinct is just to be against any narrative that the US provides around any issue. Their instinct is to criticize the frames through which we're encouraged to think about issues. And that's what always pisses me off when I hear people like Piker or others in the very influential DSA style left like influencer network, when they talk about how backward and how little class consciousness the American people have. It's like, no, you guys are backward in relationship to a lot of normal working class Americans whose natural instinct is to say, fuck this shit. Whatever the man or the institution tells me is true, if I'm a betting man, I'm just going to bet the opposite. It's true. Because that's what common sense has told me after getting fucking lied to and lied to and lied to and lied to, and not even paid and recompensed as I was in the 1950s with a nice living standard. All I get is lied to, sent out to war, and then fucking poverty and debt. And then they're like, oh, you know, be happy with this.
Yeah, very well said. This is the fascism in Germany that Pramila Jayapal apparently wants to spread around the world. German police has arrested several pro-Palestine protesters in Berlin. Stopped them from doing the terrorist action of playing music. Chanting Arab slogans against Israeli genocide. What does that even mean? That's crazy. Chanting Arab slogans against genocide? Opposing genocide is an Arab thing now? So this is more what we already know about Germany's fascism. And it reveals everything about the foreign policy of the DSA and their politicians, that they view these people as allies, as they implement a wave of terror against their own people who oppose genocide, while they condemn the countries that resist the United States control and resist the influence of the United States pressure against them. People who revolt against the IMF, revolt against the Zionist order. They are extremely suspicious of them while propping up Germany. And with that said, let's get to the leading progressive presidential candidate who's already preparing, by the way. MSNBC is all in. I didn't find a screenshot, but MSNBC covered this speech by AOC. They're propping her up. DSA is putting out statements about her. This is also in the title, so we got to quickly cover this. And you know that AOC is preparing to run for office because AOC just remembered that she supports Medicare for all. So right as AOC, just on cue, as always, right before elections, right before they try to get people to support the Democratic Party, right as AOC is pretending to run for president, now all of a sudden they discover the issue of Medicare for all again. Listen to this clip. And you guys can tell that AOC is preparing to be president with this.
We, the people, demand full, protected, and restored voting rights in the United States of America.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Don't get me fucking started on this bullshit. Because black liberals like Al Sharpton, you guys realize that black liberals are so far gone? They're so deranged. They literally believe that black people are like losing their voting rights in this country. You realize that people, they're just upset at Republican redistricting. Gerrymandering, but Democrats do it too. So they take gerrymandering, which make it harder for Democrats to win in some areas, and they're tying that to black people losing their right to vote. It's the dumbest, most mind-rot bullshit I hear from liberals all the time. And black liberals like Al Sharpton, literally all of them, they repeat it as gospel. They pretend that like black people can't vote in this country because apparently that's like our biggest struggle to overcome. Apparently, but anyway, sorry. Let me continue this clip. I just hate that fucking nonsense.
People demand full, protected, and restored voting rights in the United States of America. We, the people, know that means we must respond to the arsonist redistricting the South with an organizing, legislative, and civil strategy of our own to dismantle their injustice and liberate the potential of our full civil liberties in all 50 states of the United States of America.
I'm surprised she's not doing the Southern Baptist preacher.
Yeah, her little fake accent.
Yeah.
Which they all do, by the way. Mamdani, I've seen him do some shit like that. El Sayed too. El Sayed sounds like Obama every once in a while.
Yeah, something else that's very obvious when you listen to this clip is that AOC is so bad at this, dude. She has no political instincts. She has a charm of a raccoon. She has the charm of a fucking rat. She has no charm. You can tell that she's extremely poorly coached or she's uncoachable. She's just bad at this. And that's why I mean people predict that she won't have like a gigantic chance to like win the presidency because she's just a bad politician. Zoran, despite all my criticism, he's fucking good at this shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Zoran is probably one of the greatest politicians I've ever seen.
Yeah.
AOC is bad, dude. She crumbles under pressure. Remember that Taiwan answer she gave? Like, she's horrible. So if you guys think that she's gonna win, if you guys think that she's gonna charm the working class, you are delusional. But I'm sorry, I haven't got to the point of the video. Let's continue.
Of America. We, the people, demand guaranteed health care for every American as a right and not a privilege.
Here we go, guys. We are in election season. So now you guys see how she's pivoting back to fight for healthcare again. Too late, man. We already seen, you guys already showed your cards. Like when you guys had complete control of the House, Senate, had a Democrat president, and you guys didn't even try to fight for it. I don't know if you guys agree with this point I'm about to make or not, but one of the reasons why I was extremely aggressive in calling these sellouts out for not fighting for Medicare for all, because my position was like, man, even if you're not successful, bro, like even if our strategies don't work, if I just saw them fight, even if they fought and they lost, like imagine they did all these actions that we wanted to do against the establishment and they failed, we would be like, all right, let's pick our head up. I appreciate you, AOC. I'm glad you joined. Like, I don't know what you guys think, but I think it would be a completely different reaction. It's the fact that they didn't even try, bro. They always showed their hands and they would never fight for progressive policies. So am I the only one who's tired of these people misleading and lying to people for votes, which the DSA is all about? Because the DSA is already mobilized. I'm trying to speed up through my receipts here. I don't want to keep you guys too much longer. But AOC, DSA is already preparing to help mislead the working class on her behalf. I explained thousands of times how the DSA and Social Democrats, they're not shifting the party to the left. If you think so, you're a rube. The DSA is not shifting the Democratic Party to the left. They are coaching politicians on how to lie to the working class. Hey, Zohran Mamdani, tell them you're going to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. I'm sure that will trick a few of them. AOC, tell them that you're going to fight for Medicare for all. And then when they win office, they do none of those things. Look, you got to see how nefarious DSA is because they're already prepping. They're already prepping, bro. And I already got sources. I'm already hearing from the inside how if Abdul al-Sayed wins his general election, AOC is going to announce immediately after that. We see if that rumor is correct because you see they're institutionally already preparing to launch AOC 2028, the genocide-supporting bum who endorsed Kamala Harris, lied about ceasefire, break rail votes, condemn Venezuela, Cuba, support Nazis in Ukraine. This is the person that the left is preparing to promote to national leader. Listen to this video. I'll give you guys, I'll ask your opinion after this. This from DSA promoting AOC.
Let's run AOC. You've probably heard names like Gavin Newsom or Pete Buttigieg for president in 2028. No thanks. We need someone who's going to fight for the working class by passing an arms embargo on Israel, the Green New Deal, and Medicare for all.
Pause. You see why I despise the DSA? You guys see why it's upon us to wage intellectual war against these motherfuckers? Am I the only one who's upset and tired of these suburbanite rich kids taking advantage of desperate people? They're taking advantage of desperate Palestinians and telling them shit they know is not going to happen so they can gain political power. Am I the only one who finds it disgusting? Because if you're dumb, if you got a room temperature IQ, let me explain it to you. AOC is not passing no goddamn arms embargo. So why is DSA telling people that? Did the same thing with Zohran Mamdani when they told desperate people, desperate Palestinians, that they're going to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. You guys see the problem here? The DSA is not a socialist organization. They exist to mislead peace movements in the working class and help politicians lie about their agenda. Eddie, Carlos, I'm going to get you guys in here. Any thoughts on this?
I agree with you on if they would have at least fought for things like Medicare for all, my opinion would be a little bit softer. But the answer that AOC gave when they were trying to get her to do force the vote was that she didn't want to do quote unquote relational harm within the Democratic Party. And it's like, man, fuck you. Your whole campaign was I'm this outsider and I'm this fighter, this bartender from the working class, and I'm going to bust up the Democratic establishment. And then you're telling us you can't fight for Medicare for all because you don't want to anger Nancy Pelosi, the queen of insider trading. And I mean, that was an event for me that really pushed me to the point I am now, where I believe we absolutely need something independent of the Democratic Party, and just got me to totally give up on these DSA pseudo-progressive candidates completely, because they're just they become co-opted by the Democratic Party machinery, or maybe that's what AOC was from the beginning, and I don't know. But I mean, this is kind of a side point, but I also don't even agree with the way that she frames Medicare for all. She always sort of makes, and I don't know if you guys agree with this or not, but she always sort of like moralizes it and says, you know, this should be a right, which, you know, ultimately, yeah, healthcare should be a right. But what I think we should be explaining to people is that our system now is more expensive than what public healthcare would be. Our system now has this massive bureaucracy because the insurance industry is a middleman that has nothing to do with healthcare. That's just in between you and your healthcare, ripping you off, inflating prices as high as they can make it. And this is how you get, you know, saying that is how you get independents on board, or even people who consider themselves Republicans on board. You explain the rationality of your position, but she's not doing that. She's just appealing to radlibs and DSA suburbanites, like you said, being like, see, I'm still one of you. Healthcare is a human right. And she actually, when she says a lot of this stuff, she hands a free attack to the right, because the right will just, you know, what do they always say? No, it can't be a human right because you don't own somebody else's labor. But, you know, if we explain that, well, you paying for healthcare, this would just make it fucking cheaper and make sure that everybody has it and allow us to make the healthcare higher quality because the whole system's not run for profit. You can get the whole country on board with that, which is, you know, as much as we don't like Bernie Sanders, he was pretty good at that. Which I guess gets back to your point that AOC's just shitty at this. She's just does these emotional appeals to radlibs.
Yeah, that's a great point, Eddie. I'm glad you brought that up. But go ahead, Carlos.
There's a quote that Marx starts with one of his more famous books called The 18th Brumaire of Louis Bonaparte. He says, Hegel somewhere said that history is often repeated. What he failed to add, Marx says, is first is tragedy, then is farce. And this is from my experience. This is how this DSA moment feels. The first time, it was the Bernie campaigns, 2016, 2020, that politicized me, that brought Eddie and I together to work in politics. And it felt like a tragedy because we were young, naive, genuinely invested in this thing that he was calling a political revolution. And it was tragic. It felt like there was so much potential there that was lost. Wisdom and hindsight helped us see the stabilizing role that perhaps played for the system and how doomed it might have been from the start. But now we see it again, 10 years after, and it's a farce. It's very clearly a farce. It's a shtick. And the thing that I'm asking myself, because I think it's very important to be right, but we also have to be right in a correct manner. We have to be right in a way that is able to translate itself into something concrete that we can win. And what I'm trying to really think about in the second repetition, almost like a Groundhog Day cycle of like the return of the DSA moment, is what could people who knew how Bernie was going to end up in 2016 and 20, how should they have interfaced with the young people that are now getting politicized? Because at our age, you know, we're unk status at this point. All of us are unk status. Yeah. We're getting close to unk status. At our age, like, it's hard to remember how it was when we were young. And there's a lot of younger kids that are going through it now. We talk to them on TikTok all the time, 18, 19, 20 years old, 21 years old. And they're getting excited by this because it's, at the surface, if you've never interfaced with any other type of politics, it makes sense to them, especially if they're young and naive. You know, so how do we interface with that in a way that we're both saying the truth and calling this farce out for what it is, but also not coming off as like the salty unk that I think we all remember from like 2016, 2020.
I struggle with that. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I struggle with that a little bit.
We all do, because it's fucking bullshit. We're seeing the same shit we saw 10 years ago. Repeat, and then we see the fucking mouth droolers falling for it again. And I'm genuinely pissed off if you're older than 25 and you're falling for the shit again, you know, yeah, I have nothing to tell you. But for the younger people, those are that's what I've been trying to think about. How can we win something or set ourselves up to be in a position where when those young people have the disappointment that led me and Eddie to Marxism, Leninism, that we're the ones there to capture them and not let them fall into nihilism, not let them fall into the far right or other sectors of false forms of dissidence.
Yeah, this is I need to speed this up, man. This segment taking way longer than I thought it would. But let me show you guys this, and I will show you why this is complete bullshit. To me, this video was infuriating, and I'm so glad that they got ratio to oblivion with this. I'm so glad. I explained how AOC is a fascist. They would love to implement the same kind of fascism we see in the UK and Germany, but that's a conversation for another day. Let me play this part again. This is so disgusting to me, and I'm gonna continue to speak out for this. Out against this aggressively for the next few years. I spoke out against it during Zoran. People thought I was bullshitting, and now people are making the same. People are making excuses why Zoran not doing the stuff that they said he was going to do. I told you guys he wasn't going to arrest Netanyahu, bro. I told you guys he wasn't going to separate the NYPD with the IDF. Remember when you guys were saying stupid shit like that? And I was like, guys, it's not going to happen.
He dead ass.
You guys like Nick, you being a killjoy. Why can't you just be on the ride with us? Why are you telling us that Zoran Mamdani is not going to defund the police, that he's not going to do all these things? And now, after the election, they sound just like I did before. They're like, well, you can't be, let's be real, you can't really expect that Zoran Mamdani is going to separate the NYPD and Israel. Come on, Nick, you can't really expect that Zoran Mamdani was going to arrest Netanyahu. Why do you guys wait till after the election to tell the truth? Why do you guys lie to people? Why do you guys lie for power? Am I the only one who find that disgusting?
Names like
Here's the lie once again. I'll move on.
Gavin Newsom or Pete Buttigieg for president in 2028. No thanks. We need someone who's going to fight for the working class by passing an arms embargo on Israel, the Green New Deal, and Medicare for all.
Once again, anyone who says this should be smacked, because they know how the government work. AOC knows how the government work. All these professional managerial class scumbags and all these suburbanites lying to the working class, they know exactly how the government works. They were trying to mislead you. What do I mean by that? You know why arms embargo, Medicare for all, that stuff would never happen? It will never happen because Hakeem Jeffries will block it. Do you know how our government works? You guys realize that none of these bills, Congress is responsible for the purse, right? So who controls what bills get set to the floor, set to a vote? Hakeem Jeffries, the person that you guys are supporting. So you guys realize that they're engaging in a massive con, manipulating people's ignorance. You guys see how they are engaging in a mass manipulation campaign, and I'm the only one calling it out. Everyone like, well, don't you know you just campaign? You lie a little bit. You lie to the working class. No, whenever you hear Hakeem Jeffries, Dr. Abdul Al-Sayed and his supporters are doing it 24/7, pretending that he's going to accomplish his domestic agenda, even though he's running for Senate. Do you know how the Senate works? You think he's going to accomplish Medicare for all and get it through the Senate? You see how there's massive confusion and massive dumbing down of the working class. You will never accomplish any of these agendas as long as you support the genocidal imperialist Democratic Party. And Jasmine Crockett is taking a ton of heat for this video. But this is what I call a rare Jasmine Crockett W. Not for the reason you expect. Liberals are upset with her for posting this video. Progressives are furious because here Jasmine Crockett destroys the copium that's coming from the DSA left right now. Well, she explains that all these candidates talking about how they're going to oppose Hakeem Jeffries. She's like, hey, yo, by the way, you know that's not going to happen, right? They're just lying to you. So Jasmine Crockett took a lot of heat for this video, but I am glad that she said this. You see why. I'm glad that she helped make my argument for me. Because she explained to her audience and to people how progressives are bullshitting people when it comes to their opposition to Hakeem Jeffries.
I want to talk to y'all about Hakeem Jeffries. Because, child, if I see one more post about y'all believing that, like, somehow he's not going to be speaker, the only way he's not going to be speaker is if the Democrats don't win the House, okay? Okay? Nobody is going to run against Hakeem Jeffries. He's not going to have a race at all. Whatever issues take place, they're going to take place behind closed doors, and I don't care who's yelling and screaming and talking about they're not supporting Jeffries. They're going to vote for Jeffries. And frankly, because it is a secret ballot on all of these races,
I'm glad that she has a loud mouth. You guys see why they was upset with her now? Because Jasmine Crockett reveals the truth. She said, for one, you can't even oppose Hakeem Jeffries because he would need someone to run against him, and no one's running against him. So all the progressives who are saying that they oppose Hakeem Jeffries, what do you mean by that? Also, Jasmine Crockett is going to explain to you how it's a secret ballot. So let's say hypothetically, AOC comes out against Hakeem Jeffries, which she didn't, by the way. But let's say you got these progressive politicians saying they would never support Hakeem Jeffries. There is nothing that you can do to prove that they didn't. They can easily say they oppose Hakeem Jeffries and vote for him on a secret ballot like they do all the time. Jasmine Crockett is actually cooking, but once again, not for the reason she thinks. But she explained to the progressives why they're fools and why they're misleading you. We almost done here, guys.
Jeffries. They're going to vote for Jeffries. And frankly, because it is a secret ballot on all of these races, they can say whatever they want to say to y'all. And then they do whatever they want to do. It is all secret ballot. So no one has to, the only time it makes it seem like it's public is when we actually go on the floor, and it's really supposed to be more ceremonial than anything. But the actual votes are taking place behind closed doors, and those will take place in November-ish sometime, I guess.
And there was a lot of hate for her because she explained how there's going to be no opposition for Hakeem Jeffries. So that essentially means that all the promises that DSA politicians are telling you, let me be conservative, for the next 8 years, it's not going to happen. But Hakeem Jeffries is still young, bro. You got to realize he's never giving that speaker up. They're never going to get rid of it. They're never going to remove him from power. He's going to be speaker for as long as Pelosi was. He's going to be either minority speaker or majority speaker for at least 25 years. I hope we're lucky and something let's say he get Lindsey Graham, we get lucky. But most likely he won't. He got the best healthcare in the world. So we got Hakeem Jeffries for at least 25 years because of the DSA NATO left. So you're going to accomplish none of those domestic agendas, which is why I don't talk about it. You guys want to talk about foreign policy? You know, stuff that Abdul al-Sayed actually is going to vote on? You know, things that AOC will actually control when she's president? Anyone who is covering domestic policy around 70, 80% of the time is full of shit. Because none of those progressive policies is going to happen with the current infrastructure that we have until we build a rising revolutionary third-party movement. But Eddie Carlos, I'm going to give you guys final thoughts. I know I'm long. I ran extremely long. I don't know if I got time for the Sam Piker say. I might do it later. What you guys? I kept you guys kind of long, but I want to give you guys final thoughts on this segment. And I'm thinking of wrapping. But what do you guys thought? Any final thoughts before we move on or begin to wrap up here?
I've made the same point that you just did a couple of times, where it's like this is why I can't follow like the day-to-day of domestic politics, because it's just a circus.
Yeah.
I think the segment you just showed is important to show how DSA is defrauding people, to explain how the American political system actually works, and decisions like this are made behind closed doors so they can yap and say whatever they want. But that's because that segment exposes how much of a circus this whole thing is. And you have people like Kyle Kalinske who are following like the day-to-day of American politics, and still like 10 years later acting like the Democrats are going to push through Medicare for all and these different policies. It's like, bro, give it up. It's not going to happen. Like, these people don't give a shit about you. You're just lying to people. And I like some of the stuff Kyle says still. He's pretty funny on Twitter sometimes, but it's like, I don't get how people participate in this circus. It's like the same people who call themselves political junkies in America are oftentimes like the dumbest, most ignorant political people you'll ever meet in your life, because they're just people who watch Fox News and CNN every day. And they're like, I'm a political junkie because I follow what's going on the floor of Congress. Like, man, you don't know shit. Those people are just like putting on a circus so you don't actually fight for anything real or understand what's actually going on in this country.
I told you guys, that's why I only watch my homies. I don't watch independent media like I used to. But when I used to sell cars, there was a lot of downtime when you sold cars. So I used to listen to a ton of independent media. That's why I got that when I learned about Jimmy, that's when I learned about Kyle, learned about all these people. Because I'll be on a lot waiting for customers, bored as fuck, listening to many independent even those I disagree with, just to kill time. I'll listen to people I even disagree with. But I can't do it. It's so brain numbing because a lot of these like left independent channels, they will talk about electoralism and domestic politics like 90% of the time. And it's complete waste of time. But Carlos, I'll pass to you. And I will be getting wrapped up because I don't want to keep you guys any longer on a Friday night. And also, we still got to read chats with Zoya. So we still got a few more things we got to do on stream. So Carlos, I'll give you final thought and we begin to wrap up here. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to to clickbait anyone. I'm gonna cover the Hassan Piker story. Out of all the things we talk about today, I think that ranked as the least important. That's why I shoved it to the end. So I may cover that on Monday. I apologize if anyone looking forward to that segment. But we did a comprehensive breakdown on why I despise the essay. I broke down in detail why they're wrong about Ukraine and why they will never accomplish the domestic policy. So I know we accomplished a bit on this stream. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to cover Hassan, though. Carlos, any final thoughts? And also give you guys a chance to plug anything. Anything you want to add, Carlos, before we get to wrap up?
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right. These people are snake oil salesmen. They're sophists. They're there to just dupe the working class into voting for them and keeping them hooked in the fucking in the what's that thing, the wheel, the rat wheel, the
hamster wheel,
in the hamster wheel that is a system. And I think that's important to talk about because for the first time in American history, poll after poll shows that people are dissatisfied. Very high rates of them. The majority of Americans are dissatisfied with both parties. There's polls that have suggested that almost 50 or over 50% of Americans are interested in thinking about other third-party alternatives. And when you have these people that present themselves as socialists and sell hope to the masses in order to lure them back into the two-party duopoly, they're objectively agents of empire. They're agents of the system. They can call themselves socialists all they want, but if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck and walks like a duck, it's a fucking duck. And what these people are just, a way of defending the system through the presentation, the feigning of being dissident against it. And at a time when the system is very unpopular, that's one of the best ways to try to uphold it, by having a bunch of people that pretend like they're attacking it, but all they're doing is folding people back into the system. And if you want to not do that, if you want to try to build bridges and lanes of communication across sectors of the left, of people who want to build a left outside of the Democratic Party, you should consider showing up to our Marxism conference in Chicago. Comrade Nick is going to be there, Comrade Butch Ware, Guy Christensen, others from the Green Party. The Green Party has been, by the way, phenomenal to us. They've been very friendly. Our people have collaborated in Texas with Greg Stoker's campaign in the past. And, shout out to the Green Party, actually principled. And they should put all these other organizations like PSL or FRSO to shame. Organizations that call themselves Marxist-Leninists, who, because of their self-classification, should have been closer to us. But the best friends, we've had so far in terms of the left have been the Green Party. So come out to this event. It's going to have all the usual ACP speakers, me, Eddie, Noah, Oz, and a few others. It's going to have a comrade named Mocha Yappuccino, who's pretty popular on TikTok, and a few other great people.
Guy Christensen,
yep. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good place to network with some of your favorite left-wing creators and academics and activists and all that good stuff. And the point is to create those spaces for all of us to talk about the shit that's fucked up today, the most pressing questions ahead of us, and whether Marxism can help us solve them. So hope to see you guys there. And yeah, you can find it, and you can find the link to sign up in any of Midwestern Marx links. It's in our link tree. So yeah,
I'm excited to be there, man. I'm always excited for these events, meeting comrades, brainstorming. I was just in Chicago with meeting with comrades in the Green Party, talking with them, and I'm super happy to hear that Green Party people are working with ACP. And it goes to, well, yeah, I'm sorry to my own horn, guys, but I think a lot of people underestimate the positive influence that RBN has had on the Green Party. I'm not gonna say name, but guys, I heard from people from the highest up in the Green Party how much that we influenced them. I told you I'm gonna do everything I can to grab, because their infrastructure is so good. I saw the potential, and I'm super excited at how much they improved. The fact they want to reach across lines to be with ACP, with RBN, their positions on Ukraine, their positions on resistance. We influenced them a lot, bro. I'm not. This is not me just blowing smoke. I was just at the Green Party conference. You guys know how many people in the Green Party told me that RBN shifted them farther to the left? I'm extremely enthusiastic and optimistic about the future of the Green Party because of our influence. And then you tell me that they reached out to ACP. I'm super happy to hear that, guys. I really am. I drove 8 hours to be at the Green Party conference, and I'm gonna drive 8 hours to go meet the ACP homies. That's how much I enjoy doing these things. That's how much I care about party building. It's gonna be an 8-hour drive. I did it twice in 1 month down there. So, fam, you guys come on, man. Support the Patreon. Throw me some bucks for gas because it's an expensive ass trip. I also didn't record a hotspot video today because I had to fix my car. Dude, my air condition broke. Ro knows, but bro, my car has been hell for the last few months. So I had to spend a lot of money on that. I'm gonna be on the road. So, fam, that's a shameless plug because I spent a shit ton of money. I spent $1,500 fixing my damn car. I'll tell you guys the story later. So please support Patreon, support the work because I gotta do another trip. Eddie, anything you want to add? And let's get you guys out here. I appreciate you guys being generous with your time tonight. Any last thoughts, Eddie?
Of course. Thanks for having us on. No, support Nick on Patreon. Help him keep traveling across the country. I know what it's like to have car issues. I'm dealing with a similar situation. Yeah. And I had to spend like thousands of dollars on dental care the last few months because wrestling knocked all my teeth out. So I feel you. Support independent creators, guys. We're not getting brand deals out here because of our politics. But I just saw Zoya asked a question.
Yeah, let's find it
real quick. How to respond to the argument that communism is Jewish? I mean, I would all the things these people come up with about the Bolsheviks murdering millions of Christians is completely unfabricated. You just got to ask them for a source. If they tell you that like 70% of the Bolsheviks were Jewish or something, just ask them for a source. They won't be able to produce one, and if they do, it'll be some Nazi propaganda. But if you watch I know Haas is coming on again soon. If you watch his appearance on Jake Shields, who I know Nick and I have both talked to, he did a really good job. He explained how basically
great job.
Yeah,
I saw it. It was great. It was a masterclass.
Yeah, I agree. And he explained how, Stalin, there were like Zionists and, not to say Stalin just purged all the Jews because they're Jewish, of course not, but there were like Zionist influences in the Bolsheviks and they were purged from the party. And this can be backed up by like the Soviet archives and statistical data. And then you actually had a very similar thing in the CPUSA in America where there were a lot of like, either future Trotskyites or Trotskyite oriented like Zionist upper middle class Jewish people, mostly located in New York, who were kind of trying to take over the CPUSA. And William Z. Foster was like this Midwestern guy who was like, and they were pushing the argument that we just should reach out to liberals, right? We don't need to reach out to working class people wherever they're at, just liberals. And William Z. Foster said, fuck that, and ended up reconstituting the party after his split with Browder. But he kind of waged a factional struggle within the Communist Party against that like Zionist orientation that was extremely popular. So it's just a way to dismiss communism. It's race essentialist ideology, which always leads to, pure irrationalism of outlook. Anytime you try to explain the world strictly through the lens of race, it's going to lead you to these wild conclusions and having to make shit up in order to justify your worldview. So it's just Nazi propaganda. And if you study the history of the Bolsheviks and the CPUSA or any of the communist parties historically, you'll realize that's not the case. Another thing, Mao Zedong funded the PFLP, the Marxist-Leninist Palestinian Resistance Organization. Stalin did as well, although the Soviet Foreign Ministry originally did vote to recognize Israel. Shortly after they realized what Israel was doing, they started giving arms and weapons and material support to the Palestinian resistance. So the idea that, the Soviet Union and China were secretly run by the Jews. The Jews are sending guns to the Palestinians. What the hell are you talking about? It's just nonsense.
Dude, very well done, Eddie. I was about to take it on, but dude, you smacked that down better than I probably could. Now you guys see why I like the ACP guys and why I associate with them. They take study very seriously. They take educating the working class very seriously. Compare that to the dipshit, dumb DSA level where they just proud in their ignorance. They weaponize their stupidity. It's two completely different things. We honor being smart and educating each other, studying history, dismantling talking points, versus the other side who just they repeat empire narratives so they can get free buses. I think the difference is clear. But anyway, I'll let you guys go. Thank you guys. I'll see you both of you guys in Chicago. If you're in Chicago area, even if you can do a little drive, bro, I promise you it's worth it. I'm driving 8 hours. I know I'm speaking. I drove 8 hours for the Green Party. If you can do, I highly recommend it because every time I meet comrades, it's great. Like the conversations I was having, like it's just so beautiful being in sync, being around people you're in sync with. I had a great time at the Green Party conference. I'm sure I'm gonna have a great time next week as well. So thank you guys, Carlos and Eddie, Midwestern Marx, wing of ACP. Thank you guys for joining us. Zoya, are you there? You want to help us close the show out? 2 hours with Midwestern Marx. And I had to cut the Hassan segment. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry that I had to cut that one. I may cover it on Monday. It's not that important. It was going to be a funny stream of me laughing at Hassan being condemned by the party he worships. Especially the John Ossoff one is hilarious. But I'm going to cover that. I'll make it to it on Monday. It was more of a fun segment, not that important. I don't think anyone's going to be too heartbroken. We got to edit the title, though, Zoe. I'm going to edit the Hassan Piker segment out. I'll update the title so people who watch the replay not clickbaited. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't mean to do that, but hey, we covered a lot of great stuff. We've kind of ran out of time. Zoya, I'm not sure you're there. I can start reading super chats. Are you there, my friend? Zoya love? Zoya's life? Zoya, please?
I'm here.
Hey, great. Let me take a break. I'll be back.
Do you hear me? Hey, guys. Let me know in the chat if you guys can hear me. Hello.
I can hear you, Zoya. Can you guys hear her?
Yeah, it looks like they can. All right, let's get into it. Blame AT&T internet if anything cuts out. Salad noodles, good evening. Feed me Seymour. You can be loyal to Karl Marx or you can be loyal to America. You can be a communist or you can be a patriot. You cannot be both. Trump literally said that. Mark Puglisi, Nick, they're lost because they lack the ML perspective.
There's nothing that been more clear than that. The fact that they're anti-communists, they will openly admit that they're anti-communists, by the way. They say that. Their antagonism towards ML perspectives this comment is great because that's exactly what misleads them and why they keep doing stupid shit that fails over and over and over again. Thank you for a comment.
Big Mad Crab. And that's, by the way, the guy who we owe credit to for the nice introduction.
Oh, yeah, that's the homie. That's the homie.
And he edits the house. Yeah. The entire party is condemning them, and they're still going to vote for them in the general. Tragic. Street Cat Munchies. Yo, Nick. Truth Sensei with a good reminder to like, sub, and share, and also hit the bell. Mustafa, good day, everyone. Comrade Cranky, thank you for the $5. Don't you have to support Banderites in Ukraine and forget about Gaza to be a progressive Democrat? Ah, my laptop is so slow today. Tony, thank you for the $5. We are dealing with the most demonic people. Zelensky is a Nazi Jew. Yeah, his Judaism was used as a deflection, though. Ukraine can't be Nazi because Zelensky is Jewish. Those were frustrating times. Feed me Seymour. Piker is a psyop, too. He's controlled opposition. He plays his part really well. When people go, but he is good on this issue and that issue, that's exactly what controlled opposition does. They have to be good on some issues to win your trust. Mr. Blamo, they say the quiet part out loud, not even hiding it. They're doing it more and more aggressively. Mustafa, I came across a video of Hassan speaking Turkish to his Turkish audience. The fool was gloating and claiming he represents the left in America. I replied, Sieg für gibt Gott Willen. I don't know what you just got me to say, but I hope I pronounced it correctly.
Zoya accent is something that I love. I love when you guys get her to speak other languages. That's so fire. I'm so jealous.
We're doing Hooked on Phonics over here part-time. Street cat munchie. I need to make billboards near high schools not to join the military. Hey, whatever you do, anything you do counts. If you can stop a few teenagers from going down that path, then that's great work. Kylie Jones, it's really not hard. Whatever side the U.S. is on is the evil side. You would think people would start recognizing this pattern by now. But alas. Michael Chilbot, I went to this CPI conference and met Caleb the mobster. We've had Caleb on before. It's been a few years, but I think we even did a few interviews with him. Eno Shadowwalker, the whole thing is a psyop. Remember, AOC and Mama Bear would fight in public, and now AOC is establishment. Yeah, they love giving you guys a soap opera, though. Will they, won't they? Oh, he's mad at him, she's mad at her. And then they all vote for genocide. Feed me Seymour. Many YouTube streamers are running cults. It's hilarious. Americans love their cults. Thank you, Hollywood. Man, I wish we had a cult. Well, too bad we don't know how to form those. We just tell you guys the truth.
Yeah.
It's all good. Social Democrats support empire. Facts. Michael Moya. Hi, Nick. Smash the like button, y'all. Yes, please. You know this channel is heavily suppressed. Stone Trader. DSA. Don't say anything. Political homemaker. I'm making Greek fries and fish I caught, but I have to stop and say I'm thoroughly enjoying this stream. You all are cooking. Sounds like you're cooking too.
Yeah, literally.
Slavic Rusa. Privyet fam. Long time no see. Privyet is hi in Russian.
Yeah, I'm gonna tie Zoe down one day and force her to teach me Russian.
They're teaching Russian on RBN.
I'm gonna have Jason Smith
Eric.
teach me fucking Mandarin, and Zoe gotta teach me Russian. Nico gonna teach me Portuguese. I already got decent Portuguese from my time doing jiu-jitsu. I can understand some things, but I can't speak it to save my life. So I got 3 homies to help me become multilingual. I'm a victim of American education.
And we feel for you. We're here for you. There's help. Reach out today. Riek Bernhardt. Did you notice how many of the Epstein class are bankers? They're the only ones who are winning from all this death and destruction by making loans with natural resources used as collateral. Well, they're part of the capitalist finance system. Mustafa, I met some clueless fool that truly believes that Putin blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. What a fucking idiot. It's incredible.
That's the average NATO leftist, by the way. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but that's average.
It's so
I gotta do a segment. Oh fuck! I actually cut this segment earlier this week. I didn't have enough time, but you gotta know the German court. I covered that part. The German court ruled that the Zelensky government is responsible. Now I understand that people can make the argument that that's bullshit and they use that to cover for the United States. I understand that. I understand that's a real angle that could be legitimate. But the official narrative coming from Europe is that the Ukrainian government is responsible. You gotta know that there are German MPs, including people within Friedrich Merz coalition, that's calling for Germany and Europe to just simply pardon the people responsible. That may be a segment we cover next week. But look, there's so many stories I don't even get a chance to get to. That's why I don't understand why people cover bullshit. Like there's so much geopolitics, so much hard-hitting shit that we gotta get to. The Nord Stream pipeline updates are hilarious and expose Europe so bad. So they're talking about pardoning the people who are responsible for the greatest act of eco-terrorism in modern time that destabilized Europe. But I may cover that later. I'll show you guys receipts. You guys know I got receipts for days.
Ruski partisan. In Ukraine, 150 street names with Waffen SS, Hauptmannführer, Roman Shukevich, the butcher from Volin, literally like walking the KKK as an African American. I mean, it's definitely disturbing for Russian people whose grandparents lost their lives defeating Nazis on that very soil to now see all of this Nazi insignia everywhere. When it first started happening in 2014, I saw a lot of videos that were just heartbreaking, especially the older generation who fought and bled for this. They lived long enough to see people doing sea trials. It's just so sad. Rami, they tried to do the same in Georgia, Russia, Kazakhstan. Oh, they're not done trying there. They're trying to do color revolutions there. There's still NGOs and USAID networks. They're all over there trying to promote color revolution. It's all good. Now BlackRock owns your land and 1 million men are dead. Yeah, I mean, the average Ukrainian didn't want this. You know, their leadership sold them out. Feed me Seymour. No war but class war. Ogus Demirelli. ACP. Aqua Pendulum. ACP, ACP, ACP. Three-chord grifter. What happens when the Ukraine Nazis turn all these weapons the other way once they realize what happened to them? Well, most of the Nazis are being killed. I mean, a good chunk of those 1 million dead were actual Nazis, and they were taken out early. They're, the ones that are left alive are hiding. Yeah, they're hiding in leadership roles and, you know, hiding all of the money they laundered out of Ukraine. But those weapons have been already funneled to places like Syria. They were funneled a long time ago. Ukraine is now like a hub for Western imperialism to distribute all of these weapons to all of this terrorism that they fund. Ukrainian weapons are even ending up in the Sahel. So that's why when people want to try to separate issues, they don't understand how interlinked global geopolitics are. It's all good. They want Nordic capitalism, social democrats. Yeah, they sure do. All the same imperialism, but with healthcare. Justice,
well,
NATO, not one step
on that
to
last
the
sorry, Zoe, but on that last comment, what pisses me off is I wish they admitted it. You know what I mean? I wish, like, why do they gotta call themselves a socialist? You know what I mean? Then they will get mad at us. They will get mad at me when I'm like, hey, man, you know you're a capitalist, right? You're not a socialist. Then they're like, oh, look at Nick and his purity fetish. Like, no, why can't you just be honest? Be honest and say, hey, man, I want a capitalist welfare state. I'm okay with the exploitation of the working class as long as we get a bigger piece of the imperial pie. Like, if they would just acknowledge that they're not socialists, that they just want a welfare state, that would cut a lot of my criticism off. Because, hey, all right, I guess at least I can't say you're a liar. But they're liars. They're misleaders. And then they run away from the term socialist when they win these elections in order to legitimize the liberal talking point that socialism is unpopular. That's why they're like, oh, that's why people have to do like, I'm a capitalist, I'm a capitalist. And then these social democrats still support them in the first place, even though they're openly a capitalist. Just admit you're a capitalist then. Stop stealing our shit. Because if socialism is so unpopular where you got to apologize for being a socialist like many of them do, why hijack our term in the first place? Because they're doing what the Nazis do, what they did, where they try to hijack socialism to make it look bad for the masses. That's what they do. They want to hijack real socialism to prevent the rise of the tankies who hold their class collaborating ass accountable.
Yeah, Hitler openly said that he read Karl Marx and he studied it, and then he used the methods that Karl Marx described to sheep herd people into fascism. They love writing the popularity of socialism and then getting people to embrace fascism. Justice, NATO not one step to the east, 1991. That's in regards to the promise that was made to the Soviet Union. If they bring down the Berlin Wall, that NATO will not expand. No one can ever trust the West. Ruski Partisan. The Communist Party of Russia is the world's most successful opposition party. It's definitely responsible for a lot of the social programs that Russia has. Anti-Imperialist Party, ACP, 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 ACP. I've never said ACP so many times. Midwestern Marx, Green Party will have representatives at the conference, by the way, Anti-Duopoly Coalition. You love to see it. This is wonderful.
Yeah, there was some shit lib on Instagram who was upset with me because they saw the poster of me being at ACP event. They were like, Nick, you should you should pull out an ACP event because of you, Bush Ware is going to be there. There are a lot of Green Party people that want to be there because you're there, so you should pull out. It was some dipshit liberal on the phone because my hotspot videos are starting to spread on Instagram. So I thought there like be random liberals that will be on my page now. And this person was so furious that I was going to attend the ACP meeting because they said specifically, if Bush Warren then wouldn't go if you didn't go. Like, how do people not think that's a bad thing? You know, by the way, the people upset with Marx's meeting. But yeah, I'm glad the Green Party is open to working with ACP. I'm speaking from personal experience and what I analyzed. I've seen the Green Party in the United States make so much ideological leaps in a positive direction over the last few years, especially with the reparation platform. Bruh, the reparation platform was fired. I'm super high on the Green Party. They got a lot of potential. We just need to get people on board. You know what I mean? But go ahead, Zoya.
Feed Me Seymour. RCA is at our local farmers market, talking, sharing every weekend. No war but class war. That's great. I mean, I like to hear about all community organizing. I don't know about you guys. In the end, we're all going to need to come together. So anyone that's raising working class consciousness, I support that. Anti-Imperialist Party. Everyone do 10 push-ups. ACP is here. We do need to be healthy for the revolution. Ruski Partisan. Ibrahim Traore and G realize identity politics is dangerous. Sky KC. Isn't Emma Vigilant from a rich family? Yes, she is.
Yeah, her parents are corporate lawyers, by the way. She went to, I don't remember the exact number, so please forgive me, but she went to a high school that has just to protect myself, I won't say the exact number, but it was a tuition of tens of thousands of dollars every semester. The receipts are available. I seen it a long time ago. That's why my memory's foggy. But she went to this super expensive prep school, super rich corporate lawyers, and then she presents herself as the voice of the working class, misleading them and sheepdogging them into supporting Nazism, liberal Zionism, and corrupt Democrats. We like class traders are good, but Emma Vigeland is not a class trader. She's a suburbanite who purposely tried to put herself as a thought leader of the working class so she can feed the working class wrong solutions in order to protect the class of her parents.
Yep. Bryce Smith, salute Nick, Eddie, and Carlos. Don Hooligan, Green Party was on all ballots until 2024. Yeah, it's scandalous how they've been going after the Green Party. But it's a democracy, guys. Zach Curtis, PSL pride themselves for getting protest permits and tailing every lib movement. Yep. Slavic Rusa, Zoya and I lived through economic shock therapy. We ready for any pressure cooker? Yeah, that's absolutely true. And anyone who does this to their country, who sells out their countrymen, and it leads to human trafficking and starvation and just unimaginable human suffering, like Delcy Rodriguez. It's absolutely unforgivable. Everything is bad. Do you have any thoughts on Professor Jiang? Yeah, he's a fraud.
Yeah, don't get Zoya started.
I mean, you know, so much can be said, but he's anti-China, he's anti-communist, he repeats a lot of CIA talking points, but he includes conspiracy theories that are popular and that are true, and just weaves in that propaganda into it. He's actually pretty dangerous, and his popularity all of a sudden out of nowhere. I mean, always beware when people just rise through the algorithm. Yeah, out of nowhere like that. We've been here for years. If you're a truth teller, you're going to be heavily suppressed.
Yeah, a big problem with what he thinks, Zoya summed it up pretty well, but he promotes a very anti-scientific way of viewing the world. He diverts from class consciousness and everything about secret societies. You're like, this is part of secret societies. This is very anti-scientific, no class war. Listen to him again. You guys aren't tripping. It to me is oozing when I listen to him. I don't understand why people like him. It oozes to me that he has no class analysis because he's pretty wealthy. And anyone who propped about the establishment like that is propped up for a reason. He's there to make people suspicious about China. He did this many times before. We broke this down before. He will talk about the crimes of the U.S. empire. Then he will do a video full of bullshit that many people broke down. He was like, I'm going to explain to you why China is actually working with America and Israel to create a new world order of secret societies to control the minds of the people. And people, once again, with no class consciousness, especially a lot of rich people, he knows he's got a lot of fans of rich suburbanites as well. If you don't have class consciousness, if you had never read anything, if you're kind of a dummy, I understand why he sounds smart to those people. But the second you scratch the surface of what he says, he sounds like a gibbering fool to me. And he's a shady character because I do believe he's smart enough to know the lies that he's weaving. Like what he's doing is extremely technical. And I don't necessarily believe like he's on his own. I don't have evidence for this, but the slick arguments that he makes to try to get people to dislike the enemies of the United States is extremely suspicious. On top of anything else Zoya says, and I don't like the extremely unscientific bullshit that he promotes people in thinking. It's like the same from Alec Jones and many other people. They jump hoops to avoid class conscious conversation, if that makes sense.
Yep. Amanda Marie Brinkley. Jimmy Dore is how I came to find RBN.
Many such cases.
And we're supposed to hate him.
Yeah, many such cases. And also, Jimmy's a great guy, man. When you talk to him, he not only does support direct actions, he's a great guy. Like, it's very hard to hate him. That's why when people are like, why don't people ever speak out against Jimmy Dore just because he was on the Jimmy Dore show? Yeah, it's kind of hard to speak out against a guy who's a generally good guy. He's anti-war. You know, he's an anti-war comedian who's opposed NATO, who opposed the two-party duopoly, and he supports mutual aid. What is there not to like? He may not be exactly a theory-reading communist, but this is exactly the kind of people who we can ally with to spread our message. To me, that's common sense.
Justice, stop starving Cuba. Yeah, we have to remember Cuba. The empire is going crazy all over the world right now. Sunny, great listening to principled, reality-based analysis from the Radical Academy. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in and supporting the show. Anti-Imperialist Party. I've wanted Infrared and RBN to collab for years. Glad it's been happening recently. Midwestern Marx and Haas have been on since years ago. So it's always been happening. And Midwestern Marx always offers to collaborate, to their credit. Mr. Blamo, hand out receipts, Nick.
Yeah, I was just getting started.
Sid had
I had to cut a lot of receipts out for a sake of time. If I ever debated these NATO leftists, and you know they never would, you realize how quickly I will bury them in a wave of information. It happened to Rokana. I make sure I'm well equipped because I talk a lot of shit. I'm not gonna talk a lot of shit without being well equipped. It like Floyd Mayweather, man. Floyd Mayweather was a master of his craft, and that's why he talked a lot of shit, because he knew he could back it up. So that's why I talk a lot of shit, because I know I can intellectually back up everything I say politically. I have to be able to. That's why I be in the lab cooking, studying. While I'm studying, they bullshit talking about electoralism and what's going to happen during the midterms, Zoya. That's what they cover. And they covering bullshit that not only fail to enrich your intelligence, and I think it drains it. Like when you follow nonstop slop, when you follow nonstop bullshit, it's like a draining mechanism that kills your intelligence. So as they were doing that bullshit, I'm reading, I'm studying, I'm analyzing tape. So they have no idea what to handle when I bring these arguments to them, which is why they avoid me like a plague. Which is why I ratio them on Twitter all the time. Sorry, I'm patting myself on the back too much, but thank you for the comment.
Sid Hatfield, I no longer call myself a leftist. I'm a communist, not a leftist. M. Sparks, Midwest Marxist, ACP, doing great work. Rami, they forget about people unalived in atrocious ways in the Donbass and Luhansk. People burned alive in Odessa. Most Westerners don't even know that happened. Slavic Rusa, never forget that moment. My family in Donetsk suffered from manufactured ethnic violence against the same people. Yeah, it's a real tragedy. Rupert Fellows, Ukraine is a fake country. It's a broken country now. I mean, even if the war ends today, Ukraine is going to be a difficult country to survive in for decades.
Yeah, they're done for. They're done for. Like literally the best fit scenario for Ukraine, which won't happen, is Putin conquering the country. Putin doesn't want to conquer their own country, but that would be if I was Ukrainian, that's what I would advocate for at this point. They would literally be way better off if they were like absorbed as a Russian state and to be supported by the rising Russian economy. Right now, bro, they're screwed. They owe debts that they will never be able to pay off to the West. And capitalists like Trump, like European neocons talk about this all the time. Like, bro, Ukraine is gonna be under our thumb. Like, they have no sovereignty, they have no future. Before this conflict, Ukraine was already considered the poorest country in Europe. It is over for them, and Zelensky will go down in history as an unforgivable tyrant that destroyed his country because he wanted fame and power in the West. It's so insane. This issue is so insane. And it's so insane that people on the left again is wrong. Like, I had strong criticisms of these people in 2019, 2020, but I didn't see this coming. I don't know if I was naive. Like, the whole idea that they will support Nazis, support NATO. I was like, man, I criticize you guys' strategy. I didn't know you guys were fucking neocons. That legitimately like baffled me. And I know I make fun of my old self all the time because I was less educated on these issues. But I promise, if the Bernie campaign happened and the Ukraine war, and they all support that, remember the Bernie campaign. I was on the Bernie campaign before the Ukraine war shit started. That was when Ro Khanna pretended to be against it. But if that shit popped off, I would never have supported them. Because even though my analysis was wrong, I truly did believe we was building an anti-war movement. That's what I believed. I at no point, even before I was a Marxist, at no point would I have ever signed up and been okay with people supporting NATO and Nazism. Never in a million years.
Yep. It's frustrating. We've been saying the same thing for years, and some people are late to the game, but at least they're here. Rami, a large majority of people were against the dismantlement of the USSR. Absolutely. USSR was sold out by leadership. There are still, if you do polls today, the majority of the country, even Ukraine before 2014, they said that they missed communism. Pro Santucho Productions. Good on Nick Cruse for calling out the Western media that whitewashed the Zelensky regime. Someone's got to do it. Casey McCoy. How long can they keep this no elections thing up? until the Ukrainian people rise up or Ukraine fully collapses. There's only two ways that this ends. I mean, I don't think they're planning to hold elections, period. So
Yeah,
it's up to the Ukrainian people. Yeah, they have no reason to. So it's up to the Ukrainian people to get out into the streets and start protesting, start organizing. Remember your communist roots and your communist grandparents and people who bled on that ground so that you guys can have sovereignty and freedom and healthcare and education and all of the infrastructure that Soviet Union built that you're still using. They're still using Soviet trains. So, you know, just go back to your roots, Ukrainians. Ukraine, if you're listening, it's up to the people. They got to get desperate and frustrated enough to get out into the streets. Rupert Fellows, Putin let Russian-speaking Ukrainians be massacred by Western Ukrainian Nazis for 8 years. My objection to Putin is, why did he wait so long? Well, 14,000 died while that happened, and now there's 1 million dead. So before even getting into all of the geopolitical consequences, he was waiting to prevent 1 million Slavic people from killing each other. And he will be criticized for that. And of course, I understand a lot of people, especially the ones that were having the bombs dropping on their heads, wanted him to act sooner. But he was trying to be a responsible player and negotiate. But these Western powers do not care about diplomacy or reaching any sort of agreements. They want everything and they'll take it by death and destruction. Bianca Tallarico, Putin doesn't scare me. Zelensky and Netanyahu causing thermonuclear war scares me. I farted in Stephen Miller's mouth. You're back. Ukraine made me like Putin more. It's starting to happen. The more people actually listen to what Putin is saying and rationally analyze it, the more they're coming around. The facts are on Russia's side. Newbie apocalypse. Make sure y'all like and share the stream. Yes, please. Again, we're heavily suppressed, so it's up to you guys to get the information out. Casey McCoy, don't forget your poll, Nick. Oh, Nick doesn't even know there's a poll. I post the polls. The poll showed roughly, I asked if people trusted Hassan Piker, and surprisingly, we had 7% say that they do trust Hassan Piker, 83% that said that they don't, and the third option was who, and we had about 10% going who, because not everyone knows who Hassan Piker even is. Zaldivar, thank you for the $2. Nick, say redistricting 5 times fast. That would have to be a much bigger super chat than $2, guys. Bianca Tallarico, Hassan was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. And it shows, doesn't it? Metal Nick, we really need an anti-imperialist movement. People are working on building one. Are you doing your part? We gotta all ask ourselves. Frankel, she's calling governments who don't open up their economy to be looted by Wall Street authoritarian.
Exactly. I'm sure you're talking about Pramila Jayapal.
Yep. I farted in Stephen Miller's mouth. We should be forming militias. It's in the Constitution. It's supposed to be an American tradition. I don't see what the problem is. I mean, you guys want to be real patriots. Remember your history. Cello Man, Republicans and Democrats are both right-wing forms of government on the government tree. Pulling the strings. Americans live in their own little world. Absolutely. Americans have no idea what life is like outside of America. They need to travel more and talk to international comrades and really open up their worldviews.
Decolonize your minds.
Justice, George Galloway is living in China and Russia. No, George Galloway is living the dream.
Yeah, that's it. China, Russia, if you're listening, please. I want to accept refugee status.
Yeah, we've been
political
called
persecution.
Goon puppets, come on. Number 8. I love how politicians pose as crusaders for the proletariat suffrage. Girl, you scared of us and our dissent. Shut the fuck up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well said.
More of that, but in their faces. Pro Santucho Productions. Hassan derangement syndrome is faker than the Tooth Fairy. It's all theater to make his liberal Zionism seem more radical.
Yeah,
Well said.
I'm actually mad that this person kind of spoiled my conclusion because it was revealed, and it's kind of a spoiler for whenever I do, if I get to the segment. There was a poll that revealed that Hassan Piker. Actually, I have it right here. I'll show you guys. Maybe I shouldn't. I'm kind of spoiling the ending of my segment, but hey, I don't think most people are gonna see this part anyway. Wait, this is not it. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Hassan Piker has been named the number 3 most influential creator of 2026. For all the people who think that Hassan Piker is like some sort of victim, don't you know Hassan Piker is under attack, Zoya? I told you, idiots. This is designed to make him more known and popular, bro. And it worked because they said before that they wanted to create a liberal Joe Rogan. This is why I shared you. This is what I was going to get into. Like, I know this segment wasn't going to be me like, oh, I can't believe they're going after Hassan. Like, bro, I was going to show you guys this shit was political theater. They wanted to create a liberal Joe Rogan, and they did that by having unpopular swamp monsters come out and attack him on a very important popular issue to create an illusion that he's an outsider. So then once people think he's an outsider, he would then endorse the Democratic Party nominee in 2028 to give the illusion that, hey man, even Hassan Piker, who is hated by the establishment, who is this radical, even he's endorsing John Ossoff for president. Zoya, I see the strategies that they're coming up with miles away. It's so obvious what they're going to do. So that was kind of what my segment was going to get at. I may do it on Monday, but there may be more important things to talk about on Monday. We see.
Road to Hell. Thank you for the $5. Forget the DSA, forget AOC, forget Medicare for All. Instead of registering to vote, 18-year-olds should join the American Communist Party. Definitely start organizing, guys.
Will be way, way better than joining the DSA. I'll say that. Way better than joining the DSA.
Yeah, well, we got to start building towards that revolution, and definitely organizing and forming workers' parties independent of the duopoly is a good start. If you don't want to go the Green Party route, American Communist Party is another good route. There's plenty of small, suppressed communities that are organizing. Don't let them fool you. There's thousands of them out there. Diogenes Parthisistes. They're controlled opposition. Their job is to do damage control for the empire. I'm glad a lot of people are realizing this. And our last chat, Marvin Vargas, thank you for the $2. 25th anniversary 9/11 special show conference 9/10 through 13 New York City. Well, that brings me to our upcoming guests. We have on Monday Matt Weinglass, and on Wednesday we have Haas from the ACP. On Friday we have Jason Smith. And on Monday, Labor Day, we're going to the fake Labor Day. May 1st is the real Labor Day. America moved their Labor Day, by the way, so that they don't share it with communists and the international community. And on the 7th, the fake Labor Day, we're going to have Venezuela analysis. And that brings us to the end of another almost 3-hour show, guys. Please like, share, subscribe. Support our work on Patreon. Make sure you're following us on all platforms, Twitch, Kick, Telegram, and Twitter, of course. Make sure to follow the RBN account and Nick's personal account, Socialist MMA. We're also getting ready to announce what we're going to be donating to Gaza funds from our bonfire campaign. The links are in the description. You can buy cool anti-imperialist merch, and 100% of the proceeds will go to Gaza funds, or you can donate to Gaza funds directly. That brings us to the end. And before Nick's final words, let me just remind you guys, just organize locally. The contradictions are heightening. It's a generational fight. And if you organize in your communities, we will win. Start helping each other today. Don't wait for the revolution. No one's coming to save us. So we got to start saving each other. Love and solidarity as always.
Yeah, on the 1st, September 1st, no matter how much we have it on Bonfire, we're going to make another donation. So let's pump the numbers up. I think we're around $400 right now of funds raised. So however much we have raised on the 1st, we're going to donate that to a Gaza fund and restart the process all over again. So that's going to happen the next month. And also regarding next week, we'll see how schedule going. I think Monday should be good because I'm going to be on the road again in Chicago. I really want to keep my streak going. I'm on like a 5-week streak without missing a show. So I'm going to try my best to keep that going. I'm not sure, though. We see. Because ACP, they got me on like fucking 5 panels. Like they got me working in Chicago next week. So Zoe, I'll stay in touch. We see. I might do, if I do a stream on Wednesday or Friday, it may be at an odd different time. Because I don't want to break the streak. I might just do it like either a morning or a late stream just so I can keep the streak going. But anyway, I appreciate you guys for watching. Make sure you guys sub. I actually, I said earlier, this is a shameless plug because I kind of need it. I had to get all my brakes fixed. My air conditioning was broken. My horn was broken. Essentially, you know how it is. We all working class here. I went like 4 years without doing any maintenance on my car. The only thing I was doing was like oil changes. So I had a lot of shit to do in my car, and I had to do it before my drive to Chicago. I just did 8 hours to visit the Green Party. And bro, fam, on my way back, like I don't know exactly when my air broke, but on my way back, that 8-hour drive back, I was literally dying, bro, sweating because my air broke. Imagine driving 8 hours with a broken air conditioner. So I had to get that fixed. That cost like $300. On top of all the brakes, I spent nearly $1,500. I almost threw up. I almost threw up today. So guys, please, this is a shameless plug because in order to support my trip, support my show, support my work, please support me on Patreon. It helps me do stuff that can help grow the channel and advance our work. So anyone who wants to support me on Patreon, it definitely will be appreciated this month. Appreciate all you guys. Either way, I appreciate all the support. And I'm looking forward to meeting you guys again in Chicago. See you guys on Monday. Take care. Have a good one.